Chapter 41 Meeting the King. 2 weeks quickly went by. The tournament was one of the most popular events in the recent years on Earth. Although Raditz spent all his time on the shore of Kame House with Pai Pai and their newest member, this didn't stop the world from moving forward. And what Raditz was waiting for was finally happening. Whoosh! A flying machine was landing on the shores of Kame House. It was blowing wind across the resting Rashi and the gigantic Uzuru sitting on the sandy ground. SSSSH. Opening the door, Bulma jumped out of the machine and quickly walked towards the Titan. Hey, Raditz, Satan said your phone is not reachable. He wanted to speak with you. As Bulma approached the Titan, both the Uzuru and Pai Pai looked over. Uzuru opened its red eyes, and Pai Pai stopped humming a mermaid tune and looked towards Bulma. Oh, it's the homewrecker. What do you want now? Pai Pai's words immediately got to Bulma, who was about to snap at Pai Pai, something which Raditz stopped right in its tracks. Not now, Pai Pai. Bulma's not here to fight. This had Pai Pai turn her head the other way and Bulma did the same with a snort, then she rolled her eyes and got to the point. Like I was saying before, I was rudely interrupted. Hiss. Ignoring Pai Pai's hissing warning, Bulma continued. Satan's managed to set a meeting with King Furry, and he wants to meet you today. Narrowing his gigantic eyes, as Raditz released a deep hum. Then his size began shrinking swiftly and in a few seconds, he was back into his original form. Click. Snapping sounds came from his spine as Raditz shook off his laziness. He was sitting here as an Uzuru for 2 whole weeks. While fixing his hand guards, Raditz turned towards Bulma. Today? Good. When is the meeting? In an hour, replied Bulma, to which Raditz nodded and turned to Pai Pai and Rashi. I'll be off then. Any of you want to come? Pai Pai was his partner, so if she wanted to come, Raditz would take her without fail, and Rashi was a legend of martial arts world. Him tagging along will increase the weight his party holds. I can't. She's beginning to move around. What if she hatches and can't find me? Pai Pai held her egg close of her body while speaking. Their child was already close of hatching, and Raditz could already sense a little mermaid curled up inside. And observing her hairstyle, Raditz had a rare moment of emotion. She looks just like her. Jin, his mother of this life, that was how his child looked like, and it wasn't only the looks which matched, it was her overall feel that got Raditz do a double take when he first saw her. Is that so? Alright, we can't leave little Jin alone now, can we? You can stay. So what about you, Master Rashi? Care to tag along? Lifting his sunglasses, Rashi thought about it and denied as well. I am old, I can't make such a long journey nowadays. Nodding his head, Raditz got the hidden message. No way, I am leaving my magazines for some king, is what Rashi meant. You are done? We gotta leave. Rushed Bulma while looking at her watch. She felt like she was the only one responsible here. Not saying anything more, Raditz walked to her, and together they got on the flying machine. Whoosh! Watching them set off, Pai Pai waved at Raditz, who returned the gesture till she was visible. Bulma was a bit sour, but she ignored it. She and Pai Pai did talk after the tournament. It didn't go as planned. They still definitely don't look eye to eye, but at least it wasn't as bad as it was at the beginning. What are you going to say to King Furry anyway? You never told me. Changing the sour mood, Bulma asked Raditz what was on her mind. With his hands folded, Raditz narrowed his eyes. Vegeta and Nappa are set to arrive in about a week. Considering their style, they will land in one of the most populated cities. Then either of them, mostly Nappa, would eradicate the entire city in one attack. It's a way of showing we are here to the planet. Remembering the days he was tagging along with them, Raditz smiled. Nappa taught this tactic to me. It saved my life many times before. Bulma pursed her lips. Raditz sure lived a hard life. She can't even imagine having to live on like this all her life. She liked adventure, but only adventure all her life was too much for her. This Vegeta guy is a jerk, and this Frieza guy too. You should kick some sense into them for making you go through such a life. Laughing loudly at Bulma's words, Raditz smirked viciously. I will. Vegeta will get back all that he has thrown our way, and Frieza, he'll die. Vegeta right now wasn't the guy who sacrificed himself to kill Bu. He was the Vegeta who didn't care one bit if Raditz lived or died and killed Nappa with his own hands. Vegeta is a dangerously evil character right now, and Raditz wasn't sure he could beat some sense into him or not. He wasn't Goku. He didn't have his charisma. Serves them right? You should kick their asses. Agreed Bulma. She also knew by now how many horrible things Raditz had to do living with his team and while working under Frieza. Raditz was such a sweet man. She would have given those guys a piece of her mind herself if Raditz didn't talk her out of that. So, what's Satan doing in all this? Satan? He is going to use this to my advantage. What he'll do is dash. And so Raditz and Bulma kept narrowing down what they should say and how they should proceed. Bulma might not be a fighter, but she is the next leader of Capsule Corporation. She has a lot of pull on many things. That's one of the reasons she's going with Raditz to meet the king. With their conversations making the flight more entertaining, both finally reached their destination. We are here, that's Satan? Oh, the king has come out himself. Let's go, Raditz. Nodding his head, Raditz opened the door and, ignoring Bulma's yelling, jumped down from the sky. Bang! The guards all around were scared and immediately pointed their guns at the object that crashed from the sky. The dust settled and from the crater Raditz walked out, his tail on full display and his large body pressuring everyone into submission. King Furry, I have a proposition to make. The king gulped. He could see how his guards were unable to shoot. He saw both King Piccolo and Goku in Raditz. The king had a good enough idea now on how to proceed. Whatever Raditz wanted to propose, he needed to take it very seriously. Chapter 42 Ruler walking out of King Furry's office. Raditz had an emotionless face but Bulma was anxious and helpless. Neither said anything while walking. Satan had stayed behind to do what was needed, but Raditz had decided to walk out. After getting out of the office without haste, Raditz and Bulma boarded the flying machine and quickly took off. "Aren't you upset?" asked Bulma after a while of silence. Raditz had gone and told King Furry vital information, but the results were not up to the mark. Raditz kept silent for a while, before speaking. "Not really. King Furry isn't a bad ruler but he is also forced by circumstances. He is right. Even after knowing they are coming, we don't know which city they might arrive in. He can't exactly evacuate every city, even if we narrow it down to a region." Bulma pursed her lips. She understood that, but the implications didn't sit right with her. But that would mean everyone in that city would be killed. Their promise to keep the army stationed at every city is as useless as it can get. Everyone will just get slaughtered until one of you guys arrive. Raditz kept quiet. He understood the implications but there wasn't much he could do. Evacuating every single citizen in record time out of a city was plain impossible. King Furry did say he will try to minimize the losses as much as he can, but Nappa only needs to raise 2 fingers and everything will be over. Looking towards Bulma, Raditz shrugged. "It's an unavoidable thing. We can try and resurrect the good ones using Dragon Balls if you want." Waving her hand, Bulma replied. "And discuss the Dragon Balls with him? Given his track record, I would rather not." Shrugging lightly, Raditz let it go. They will do what is needed in due time. And he didn't come out of there without any gain. He got exactly what he wanted to get. Looking out of the window, Raditz corrected her on one thing. "You don't have to ask them for anything. He is now king in name alone. It's me who holds the military might." Raditz took over a lot of departments today, and not only was King Furry supportive of this, he also gave Raditz authority equivalent to himself. King Furry was a peaceful king, yet he knew how powerful real martial artists could get, but they barely cared about much so his hands were tied. Someone like Raditz was rare, although he too didn't care much for ruling. His manager Satan was into it wholeheartedly. King Furry knew he wouldn't be able to find another chance like this again, and he took it the second it presented itself. "It surprised me. He practically invited you as the second in command. The King Piccolo thing really gave him a scare." Raditz nodded. Even in canon it was only King Furry who didn't believe Satan's lies. He always spoke with assurance that it was either Goku or someone like Goku who killed Cell. "It might be so, but I think me being Kakarot's older brother is what pushed him to choose me. He seems to have a soft spot for brother. Like so many do." Thought Raditz. It was absurd how many benefits being Goku's older brother had brought him. Not only Rashi trained him without too many concerns, he also got to meet Baba easily. He had a great impression on the Z fighters and now King Furry's case. Yet Goku never used anyone for his own benefit, purity of heart at his best. Kakarot is kind. He takes over mom too much. He even denied money that was rightfully his, even as Satan came to deliver it to his door. Talk about a sage-like mentality. Shaking his head, Raditz let go of his brother's case. Goku suffered quite a bit due to this purity, not only financially but generally. But now he was here. He was Goku's older brother and now the person who practically controlled the entire planet. Goku's family wouldn't be facing a financial crisis, at least on his watch. "Now there's a week remaining, give or take. I should do what I can during this time," mumbled Raditz. Bulma turned to him and looked deviously. "Why don't you come to my house for a while? We can work out some kinks in Android T. Anyway, what will you learn with Rashi in only a week?" Humming lightly, Raditz thought about it for a bit. "I can. My OASRO training's done. It's all basic instinct training for now, but I am not leaving Pai Pai alone. And she is adamant that she wants the egg to hatch on sand, even though it's completely unnecessary." Giving him a look, Bulma decided to focus on the plus side. At least he agreed to come. As for that snatcher, she will think of a way out. "I have artificial beaches in my house, she can stay there. There's also medical care for the child. It's better than Rashi's island, right?" suggested Bulma. Although she didn't look eye to eye with that fish, that didn't mean she was a fool. This suggestion of hers was good for each one of them. There is no way the fish can make her look bad again. "That sounds all right. Fine, I'll ask Pai Pai." Celebrating in her mind, Bulma speeded up towards Kame House. The sooner they reach Capsule Corp the better. And Raditz decided to prepare for the inevitable fight. Not only was it personal, it was also this world-ending threat that will push him to levels of fame even Satan didn't get. Satan used the Cell threat to make his career. Raditz will use the Sun threat. As far as the Earth is concerned, both are world-ending calamities. Saiyamon vs Spaceman. I can already see it now, muttered Raditz internally. All this would be on camera, so he had to at least remember some lines before he begins his real punch-up. This would be the final time he would need to act. Not only will he then have world-saving fame of Satan, he will also publicly be the second in command. It'll all come together as soon as the Suns arrive. Chapter 43 Suns arrive. Raditz was in a white lab coat, his tall frame looking a bit out of place yet strangely in character for this type of clothing. The floating Pai Pai swimming through the air seemed to think so too, admiring her partner with stars in her eyes and a little mermaid in her arms. Meanwhile Raditz was working on a human-looking torso. Wiping his sweat he asked Bulma, who was working with 2 robotic arms just on the side. "You sure this is a good idea? Giving Android T a full-body key generator would make our work of programming him much harder. It'll turn from basic microchip to nano-level encoding. This is creating artificial mechanical life. We can't make a mistake." Although Android 8 who Android T was based on was also full-blown mechanical life with a will of its own, but Android T was an upgraded version. He was much closer to Android 16 than he was to 8, the only thing which was not up to the mark was the infinite key generator. Looking at Bulma who turned to look at him, Raditz made his concerns known. Android 8 runs on electricity, so does Android T, a battery life of 10 years standby, 1 year active, 1 week while fighting and 1 day while going full power isn't to be taken lightly. We can't have this thing run off on its own, we have to make sure he is programmed to listen to our commands. None of the androids made by Jero have a good track record, be it Android 8, 16, 17, 18 all of them were working on their own. Even if 16 was a bit better, but he too possessed the ability to ignore his coding. Bulma meanwhile had a look of realization, although she didn't know about the future androids and their independence, she did know about the case of Android 8. Don't worry about that, I am thinking of building everything based on him obeying our commands. I had to dumb down his intelligence though. Now he's more akin to a really smart robot, not a full-blown artificial life. Nodding his head, Raditz soldered a wire in place using his key while speaking. I see, a real artificial life was too uncontrollable, so you opted for a robot with the intelligence of one. It's a good enough idea, that Violet might have tried to pull a fast one on us, but after taking her down, her information did indeed come in handy dash. Oh. Quickly stopping his words because Littlejan was starting to cry, Raditz dropped his work and went to console her with Pai. Bulma too stopped for a bit, they were talking too much, they must have woken her up. Although she had important modifications remaining, taking a break didn't hurt. While the trio was fussing over Babyjan, on the lookout an atmosphere of concern was present. Do you feel that? Asked Yamcha, to which Krillin grinned while sweating just a tiny bit. Yeah, Raditz wasn't kidding, those guys are here. Jitsu was also looking towards the sky, he felt the powers and spoke gravely. That one is as strong as I am, he must be Nappa, and that must be Vegeta. He's strong, said Tien, finishing Jitsu's words. Tien didn't take his loss at Raditz's hands all too well, but he wasn't a fool. He knew that guy was about as strong as Raditz, they needed Raditz to take him on. Because Goku was out of the question for now. Did Goku seriously just start to cross this snack AV? How long will he take? Asked Krillin. Goku being out of the picture was not giving them a big confidence boost. Because they still remember it very well, Raditz specifically told them when he first met them, both of them can become 10 times as strong. So what might look like a winnable battle now as long as they stick together, will directly transform into them getting slaughtered. You can mope around and feel sorry for yourself all you want, I am going out. Wait Tien. Jitsu exclaimed at the figure of Tien jumping off the lookout. Before Jitsu also jumped off, Kami found this to be a good place to interject, otherwise they might hold animosity towards Tien due to his words. I am afraid Tien is right, we must face this threat bravely. I will contact Raditz now, he will be more than enough to keep the strongest one of them at bay. Jitsu nodded first and ran off quickly behind Tien. Yamcha smiled with confidence and looked at their direction with a smirk and he too blasted off. Rubbing the back of his neck, Krillin gave a last look to Kami. Kami, guess I gotta go now. Whoosh. Flying off the lookout Krillin too rushed towards the direction he sensed the Syuns in. Kami walked up to the edge of the lookout, and looked down, his vision ignoring distance and watching the crashed space pod slowly open. Mr. Popo, please call Raditz, I am afraid the Earth is in danger. Yes Kami. With a short response Mr. Popo walked off, he was going to get his flying carpet. While Popo walked off Kami gripped his fist so tightly that his fingers dug into his skin and drew blood, he then bit his lips so hard that it also started drawing blood then he proceeded to seethe in rage like a stable-headed man should. Or not. Kami gripped his cane a bit tightly like any normal person without hidden self-destructive tendencies would do in times of stress. They are much too close, it'll be a massacre. Closing his eyes with grief, Kami watched reporters run towards the crater with cameras and the troops starting to arrive with firepower. This was not a sight the kind God wanted to see, he hoped the Earth's protectors can arrive in time. Chapter 43 Fragile Humanity Nappa and Vegeta felt a slight shock, this was the standard shock that came with the landing of their space pods, the duo's eyes slowly fluttered now that their destination had arrived. SSSSH. The doors of Syun pods opened after a year-long journey, smoke emerged from its hinges, breaking the airtight environment inside the pod. Click, click, mutter. Nappa frowned, his eyes saw only intermediate flashes of bright white light and muttering. These people have done it now. Smirked Nappa, he was going to give these guys a taste of hell. Opening his mouth wide, Nappa fired a beam of energy right at the crowd gathered before him, all the while sitting inside his pod. Boom. A lazy Nappa's attack decimated the entire street surrounding him and took with it all the reporters and civilians who had joined in the fun. Step. Smirking haughtily, Nappa stepped out of the space pod, Vegeta followed along with his hands folded and a bored look to him. But immediately both of their scouters started showing a bunch of low power levels approaching the area. Would you look at that Vegeta, they prepared a welcoming party for us. Snorting proudly, Vegeta looked around the devastated area, while completely ignoring the army arriving at their location. He was Vegeta, these small fries aren't his to handle, previously Raditz used to do it, but the trash went ahead and got himself killed. Looks like they don't quite understand what they are up against. Vegeta, should I show em? Nappa being an old experienced man, understood Vegeta wasn't going to make a move anytime soon. But he can't go and do things without the permission of the prince. He might have been taking care of Vegeta and Raditz since they were kids. But Vegeta held no affection for anyone, even his own remaining kin. Nappa understood that well enough when Vegeta refused to revive Raditz. Humph, don't blow off everything in your path. There are Dragon Balls here on this planet. Destroying them by mistake won't be good. Won't be good for me, is what you mean, isn't it, Vegeta? Thought Nappa, although he didn't show much other than a slightly instinctive scared expression. I get it, I'll be careful. Finishing with a bloodthirsty smirk of his own, Nappa turned towards the army and the fighter jets flying in the sky. I am gonna have fun with this, HA. Rushing towards the crowd of military men who began shooting at him the moment he yelled, Nappa tore into their group. Bang! A swift punch to the head immediately blasted the entire upper body of an armored soldier, but Nappa wasn't stopping. He was going ham. Boom! Each of his bloodthirsty attacks were showing his inner frustration. He wasn't going to show it as it was in nature, but he was saddened by the death of Raditz at the hands of these puny earthlings. Tick! Catching a bullet fired his way, Nappa turned to look at a scared man in armor pointing his gun at him. You people love to play with these toys, don't you? Flick. A single finger flick is all it took to tear through the helmet of the soldier. He died by his own bullet. Nappa would show them all hell. These worms didn't deserve to kill one of their last ones. Raditz was with Nappa since he was a child. Nappa practically raised both Vegeta and Raditz after the destruction of their planet. He wasn't as cold-blooded as Vegeta was. Nappa was an old Saiyan, although he like every other Saiyan wasn't into showing affection. He still held a deep bond with Raditz and Vegeta. Clench. Catching one of the men by his neck, Nappa smiled at him viciously. He wanted to know where he could get these Dragon Balls. He still wanted to revive Raditz if that was possible. Even if Vegeta had denied right away, Nappa would try and convince him if there was more than one wish. Say, where are the Dragon Balls? The man almost didn't even hear Nappa as he was scared out of his wits. His mouth was closed forcefully as his jaw was held together with his neck by Nappa's massive hands. Don't know? Pity. I might. Click. Before the man could even try and let Nappa know he couldn't speak, Nappa broke the man's neck. Nappa might seem reckless, but this was a tried and tested tactic. Now the remaining men would think twice before they speak. Now then, which one of you can dash? Da 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 da. Nappa's voice immediately cut off because the fighter planes had started firing right onto Nappa. Even the men standing around him weren't spared. They had gotten a green signal. They had to fire or they would risk losing more than a few soldiers. Da 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 da. The continuous air support was breaking apart the concrete roads. Dust was flying through the air and majority of the firepower was concentrated on Nappa's position. Move, move. The remaining army platoon leader somehow commanded the rest to move out. This was not even a fight. It was a massacre. Taking cover behind a broken bench, the platoon leader peeked out. His hands went towards his neck and took off his heat vision binoculars. With shaking hands, he looked through the thing and almost froze in place. He's. Looking upwards towards the fighter planes, the platoon leader yelled with all his might, his eyes desperate. Move now, he's coming dash. Bang! But his desperate shout was of no use. Nappa inhumanely flew right through a jet plane, his upper body sticking out of the now crashing hunk of metal. You are pissing me off. Crack. But it seemed the giant of a man wasn't happy with the inevitable crash of the jet, as he began tearing the metal monster with his bare hands in the sky, making everyone watching the spectacle freeze in place. Boom! The fuel tank soon ignited and blew up the metal monstrosity, but the man immediately rammed into the window of another jet. Ah! Smiling at the screaming pilots, Nappa knocked on the window of the jet, while hanging onto the thing as it flew at full speed. Knock knock. Boom! Another blast shook the skies, flaming metal and petrol rained from the skies. The audience watching this in their homes were petrified. The army was paralyzed, their air defense was now just flying praise. Humanity was losing. Is this the doomsday? The platoon leader said powerlessly. Their force was getting obliterated. He has to fall back. He cannot see any more of his men getting killed. Touching his headset, inside of which was now sweaty due to the environment, the leader contacted the base. Base, 0 here, we need to fall back. The situation isn't something we can handle. Denied. Immediately an answer came, which caused 0 to clench his gun. Even that was not bringing him safety. Request for backup? We cannot last much longer. Denied. Blood rushed to 0's head, as he found his requests being denied repeatedly. He was watching his men die every second. You dash. ZZZZT. Backup is arriving. After a short transmission error, 0 was pleasantly surprised that backup was arriving. Request to support until backup arrives. ZZZZT. No need, fall back, backup is here. It's here? Where? When 0 thought with a confused expression, his searching eyes shrunk into pinholes, because he could see a shadow that was becoming increasingly larger. Oh shit! Cursed 0 as he looked up. A large flaming jet fighter was 3 seconds away from crashing on his spot. I can't make it. Understood 0. There wasn't enough time to move out of the way. With that realization, the world slowed down. And it was because of this that he could see it clearly. A man with 4 arms flashed before him. Thump! And caught the crashing hunk of metal like it was nothing. His green martial arts GI was all 0 could make out before the man flashed away. The flaming jet fighter safely thrown on the side. Who was that? Murmured 0, but he soon got his answer. A handful of such superpowered men seems to have arrived. They were stopping the wanton destruction. And that man. Who are you? Tian Xinyan, you must be Nappa. That man was facing the monster of a man who was wreaking their army like it was made of sand. They are the backup. Super soldiers. Was the common thought amongst almost everyone watching this scene unfold. The army, the civilians, and the audience watching it on television, everyone watched with rapt attention. This was Earth's power. This was their hope. Chapter 44 Yamcha's strength. Nappa fearlessly gazed at the Triclops standing before him, but his long years of service had made him much more prudent than the average Xian. So taking his finger to his scouter, Nappa pressed the button. Beep, beep, beep. 100? Aren't you a strong one for this dump of a planet? A smirk of pure taunt formed on Nappa's face, something which Tian didn't bother with. Giving him a blank look, Tian backed away and landed on the spot the Z-fighters were gathering in. Nappa also let that happen. He was going to let them group up because that's when tearing them apart is the most fun. Flying to Vegeta, Nappa also landed besides him. Now their two groups were facing each other on the broken city block. Are you the ones who managed to kill that trash Raditz? Asked Vegeta with a clear disgust-filled undertone in his voice. These guys were all in the 100s. Raditz should have taken care of this in his sleep, that low-class clown. Raditz? No way, we couldn't beat him if we wanted to. Yamcha smiled as he spoke. Tian frowned ever so lightly but didn't interfere. Nappa looked intensely at the lot, then asked menacingly. Then what are you here for? You can't possibly think that you can stop us, if you can't even beat Raditz. You are all barely around 100, Raditz was 1,200. I am 4,000, and Vegeta here is 18,000. Although Vegeta and Nappa expected them to tremble in fear, or at least start backing away in horror, only the noseless bald one showed a slight flinch. The Triclops looked as plain as ever, the all-white midget also didn't show anything, and the one with the scarred face was smiling widely, with taunt written all over his face. This didn't sit right with the duo. It wasn't that they were angry, it was that they were wary. After all, if someone is so confident, they must have something up their sleeve. Vegeta, they might have something, we should be careful, they did manage to kill Raditz before. Nappa warned Vegeta, who frowned at Nappa and his incompetence, even afraid of such weaklings. He was surrounded by buffons. And Nappa meanwhile saw Vegeta's frowning face. He immediately broke out in cold sweat. Just when he was going to try and convince Vegeta he was joking around, one of them spoke up. We don't have anything up our sleeve really, it's just us, and I am more than enough to take care of you lot. Yamcha's words didn't bring any fear to the Xian duo. Gazing at Yamcha, Nappa mocked. And what do you think you can dash? Guys, let me take this one, I am all warmed up for a while now. Yamcha's smiling words cut off Nappa, making him frown. The Z-fighters looked at Yamcha and gave their respective responses, which basically meant a go-ahead. Just when Vegeta and Nappa were watching these idiots wanting to rush one by one to their deaths, instead of grouping up for a chance at victory. Boom. Gah. Nappa's eyes shrunk, as the man disappeared from his vision, and the very next instant his foot connected with Vegeta's head, catching the prince off guard and smashing him through multiple buildings. Before Nappa's frozen body, Yamcha slowly lowered his leg, while turning towards the massive man with a smile full of cockiness. It's your turn, big guy. Nappa immediately jumped back, his forehead sweating, his muscles bulging with stress, and his scouter beeping to life, as if on response to his stress. Beep, beep, beep. What? 6,900. Impossible. Nappa's eyes shook just before Yamcha's smiling face appeared before his own, and his stomach felt as if it was pelted by an asteroid. Gawa. Boom. Spitting blood mixed with saliva, Nappa crashed into an iron bench, his back hitting the metal and bending it like it was made of foam. But that didn't hurt him as much as the damage this guy's kick did. His stomach was churning from the inside. Shit, I am hurt. Vegeta. Trying to climb out of the rubble, Nappa breathed hard, his hand popped out of the rocks and he angrily climbed up. You. Expecting an immediate attack, Nappa was first surprised when it didn't come, then he was pissed when instead of that, he found the man looking at him with a smirk, as if waiting for him to get up before he will start beating him down again. This hurt Nappa's Xian pride. He was not happy being looked down on. You bastard. Growled Nappa. His body slowly straightened himself on top of the rubble, his stomach pain being left behind by him with sheer Xian tenacity. But before either Nappa or Yamcha could continue, Huom! An enormous energy blast shook their surroundings, and it was coming from the buildings Vegeta had crashed in. A massive hemisphere of energy covered the area. This dome of destruction took with it the lives of the people and the surrounding environment. Oh crap. Yamcha was taken aback. He didn't think this Vegeta guy was so crazy that he would blast his way out of the buildings. And I aimed for an empty area too. What are those guys doing here anyway? Why aren't they running away? This is not a tournament. Pursing his lips, Yamcha tried to think of ways to remedy the situation. He'll try and take this fight to a more deserted place. But before Yamcha could do anything at all, the dust cleared enough for him to see, and he flinched at what he saw. Damn you! Vegeta was bent down and looking at him with more fury than he had ever faced before. Although not afraid, he was also not a fan of the bloodshot eyes of this guy. Vegeta clenched his teeth, his body straightened, he turned towards Nappa, and spoke with rage bubbling from within him. Nappa. Growled Vegeta, which caused Nappa to understand Vegeta was completely pissed. No more playing games, kill them all, then I will take the Dragon Balls and destroy this planet. Nodding his head, Nappa shook slightly. He knew he was thoroughly outmatched by that man, and if all these behind him had similar abilities to increase their power levels, then there was zero chance he would be able to handle even a single one of these guys. Generally him and Raditz handled situations like this. Guess I gotta transform. Looking at all the Z fighters, Nappa flew upwards and looked down at them. Then with a smirk, he looked up, but soon his smile faltered. Yamcha seeing that also smiled and said with a laugh, "Looking for the moon? Sorry pal, Piccolo just blew it up recently, tough luck." Yamcha was sure he had this in the bag, and Tien clicked his tongue at that. Yamcha was wasting time getting cocky. Don't waste time, finish it quickly. Looking back after hearing Tien's voice, Yamcha waved his hand. Hey, I got this, relax. As Yamcha completely disregarded Nappa, Nappa's veins popped up, his body was crackling with an electric aura. If these guys think a lack of moon would stop him, they were sorely mistaken. So wordlessly, before the waiting Yamcha, Nappa created an artificial moon, which Yamcha took as a generic ki blast. Just when he was ready to deflect the blast, Nappa smirked and threw the thing up in the air, where it stayed put. What is that? Is that dash? Gruel? Looking at the transforming Nappa who was still flying in the sky, but now the size of a building, Yamcha began sweating. Crap. Didn't expect that dash. Boom. Ah. A boot-covered feet larger than his body smashed into Yamcha, who felt some of his bones break from the impact. A kick with 40,000 power behind it decimated Yamcha in a single second. His 6,900 didn't stand a chance. As the dust cleared, Yamcha's fallen bloody body lay on the pavement, and the Z-fighters boiled immediately. This idiot! Scolded Tien internally. Yamcha did it with his overconfidence. Now they have to face this monster and they were one man down. At least he wasn't dead. Krillin finding that ran towards Yamcha with his senzu beans, and Tien decided to stand before the Uzuro, who was about to fire off a mouth blast at them all. This is bad. I got to cut that tail somehow, thought Tien as he took the stance of Tri-Beam, because it was the only thing which could scratch this monstrosity, and he had to do something before they could catch the Xian by surprise. He only hoped Krillin can get Yamcha back in the game quickly, because he and Titsu won't be able to hold off Nappa for long. Chapter 45 Crushed HAAA. Whoom. A concentrated three-sided beam washed over the giant Uzuro, painting the sky yellow with its glare. But that didn't seem to be enough for Tien. Hey. Whoom. Another blast of the Tri-Beam washed over the place Nappa was, even before the dust cleared from the previous wave. But Tien didn't look happy in the least. This was draining his vital energy and he had only one more shot left, but it didn't work, at all. TCH, what a monster. His energy didn't weaken in the least. Understanding this, Tien decided to stop his Tri-Beam bombardment. He wanted to try and beat Nappa by himself. But clearly that wasn't possible the straightforward way, and he didn't want to go down yet, so more Tri-Beams were out of the question. Which leaves only one way. Yamcha has recovered again. We are back at full capacity. Now all we have to do is cut his tail. Making his plans, Tien gave a simple nod to Titsu and the Z-fighters, and that was more than enough to convey what he wanted to do. And so, Tien crossed his hands. Multiform. The dust cloak exploded outward almost as soon as Tien performed the multiform technique. Tien timed it perfectly with Uzuro Nappa waving his giant hand to clear the dust. Looking at the completely spotless Nappa smiling a sharp toothy smile at him, Tien finally flinched back ever so slightly. That stung Triclops. Ha 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 ha. Nappa laughed loudly. He was much more boisterous as an Uzuro and much more bloodthirsty. Grinning with his sharp canines peeking out of his maw, Nappa decided to land on the ground. Thump. The large legs cracked the concrete ever so slightly. The ground went down with the Uzuro's weight. 4 bodies? You really are a Triclops. I thought you are a hybrid and don't have their abilities, but that's clearly not the case. By now Tien had gathered all 4 of his bodies with him. Titsu was floating above him, and Krillin was back with a wary Yamcha. This again. Narrowing his eyes at Nappa's comment, Tien decided to speak back. And what made you think I am a hybrid? Scoffing at Tien's poor attempt at distraction, Nappa played along. He was now an Uzuro. He was invincible for these bugs. And he really wanted to see how this Triclops will behave when he gets to know how they killed his home planet. It's obvious, you don't have their attitude, that pretending to be all-seeing look. Laughing mockingly, Nappa spat. All this time acting so mighty, but everyone wept the same when their families were torn limb from limb. A lot of good pretending to be noble did. Ha. Clench. This word game got to Tien. It really got to him. Although Raditz also told him about his past, it was much more tame compared to what Nappa was telling him. Tien. But Titsu's words caused him to snap out of it. He knew what was important. He was simply being led by Nappa. He was better than that. He had people around him, some of whom were his rivals. He won't make a fool of himself before them. Nappa also realized his words didn't hurt Tien as much as he wanted to, but so what? He had his fun. Looks like not all of you are noble. Some also are disloyal snakes. Not even a single tear for your species. How pitiful. They must weep, knowing their own blood wanted nothing to do with them. Tien had enough of Nappa's taunts. He took his stance before seriously speaking out loud. Sorry to disappoint you. I never knew them personally. If they were as noble as you speak of them, I am sure they will understand. As for me taking revenge. All 4 bodies smirked at Nappa and rushed towards his from all directions. I'll be doing that right now. Ha. A synchronized shout from all 4 Tiens echoed in the air, and multiple Donon rays attacked Nappa from all directions. That won't do anything dash. What? Nappa wanted to move out of the way but he was held in place by an invisible energy field, making his movement slower. Boom. Ugh. All attacks hit Nappa, scorching his armor black. Krillin also rushed forward, shouting to Titsu. Good one Titsu. Titsu's speciality was telekinesis, that was his best ability and he applied it perfectly with Tien. Hey, can you keep him occupied Titsu? Yamcha finally decided to follow in again. He was frankly a bit shook, he almost died, but he was no coward. He still knew his limits of course, he knew if he goes headfirst again he might really die, so he made a cover for himself and his friends. The cover was Titsu. Yes, I'll stay back. The concentrating Titsu promised as sweat poured down his forehead. He was occupied with making chances for Tien, who was currently getting beaten left and right, with Krillin tanking a few shots in between. They were tossed around like rag dolls. This is not good. Yamcha also understood that. He had to join in, but what good will rushing in do? He will lose just as fast. Gah! Yamcha flinched a little. One of Tien's body was torn in half by Nappa. It lay on the ground, bloodied and trembling. Tien. Titsu's heartfelt scream caused Nappa to squeeze the trapped Krillin, looking at the bald man with a vicious smile. Nappa's giant hands were wrapped around Krillin, breaking his bones like twigs as he slowly squeezed. He was having fun. Crack. Ah. Krillin's screams also echoed throughout the city. Yamcha clenched his teeth. He wanted to go, but he slaughtered. What do I do? Yamcha looked at his trembling hands, then looked at Krillin's bloody mouth, screaming in absolute pain. No Tien. Finally Titsu couldn't take any more and rushed to help Tien, who only had one body left, which just got swatted by Nappa. Shit. Yamcha cursed. Enough. He has had enough. He was not a warrior. He was a bandit. He was the desert wolf Yamcha. And if there is one thing you should look out for when you are distracted, it's bandits, not martial artists. Spirit Ball. Taking his stance, Yamcha began concentrating his energy in his palm. A white orb of energy took shape in a few seconds. As soon as it was formed, Yamcha gazed at the monster and turned his eyes towards the sky. Take this. With a shout, Yamcha's spirit ball rushed towards the sky. Its destination? The artificial moon. Chapter 45 Help arrives. Yamcha looked intensely at the artificial moon. All he needed to do was hit it and they will win. A smile formed on Yamcha's face, as his finger tilted and the spirit ball shot up. We won. Whoom. Energy ball hit energy ball, and a large sphere of pure white energy formed in the sky. Nappa snapped his head towards the sky, so did the Z-Fighters. But it wasn't the Z-Fighters or Yamcha who were celebrating, it was Nappa. Shit. Cursed Yamcha, as his eye turned towards the spot his attack was blocked from. Vegeta. Sweating profusely, Yamcha backed away. He totally forgot Vegeta, and he paid the price. As soon as his spirit ball was about to hit the artificial moon, Vegeta deflected the thing with his well-timed ki blast. Now he was one option down, and managed to piss off two very strong Suns. Giving Yamcha not a second look, Vegeta looked towards Nappa with a frown. Nappa, pay attention to your surroundings, you almost lost the moon just now. Nappa scrunched up his face even as an Uzura, he was almost tricked, and Vegeta had to take charge. Vegeta would not like this, he never wanted to do anything which he considered low grunt work. Sorry Vegeta, I'll take care of them immediately. Vegeta snorted, he was getting more and more tired of Nappa. He had already decided, as long as he gets his immortality, he will kill him. He doesn't need losers like Raditz and Nappa to do what he wanted, he was more than enough to kill Frieza himself. For he was the prince, an elite Saiyan, no lower class warrior can be better than him, ever. Nappa didn't know that he was sentenced to death by Vegeta by now, and still dutifully continued to do his job. Sorry fellas, playtime's over. Looking at the crushed Krillin in his hands, Nappa smirked and took a throwing stance. His aim was Yamcha, who had his eyes widen and that was the extent of time he got before Krillin came flying towards him. Aiic. Credit where it's due, Yamcha managed to catch Krillin in his chest, even if the force sent both of them flying back. And now for the final touches. Opening his maw, a mouth blast formed inside with a red glow, signifying the surge of energy growing within. Garaya. When Yamcha managed to open his eyes and stabilize the panting Krillin, both their visions were painted red. Looking in front, the color drained from the duo's faces, all they could see was a red beam of energy coming straight for them. They didn't have enough time to get out of the way. From sheer instinct Yamcha tried to protect both using his guard. But both knew they weren't gonna make it. The beaten down Titsu and the single Conces Tien tried their best to move, but they couldn't. This was it, their death was here. Swish. Bam! But a sudden green flicker rushed before Krillin and Yamcha, and the same green legs kicked the incoming blast. Haya. Deflecting it with some effort, the green figure took his leg back, his white cloak fluttered and he touched down. Piccolo. Krillin's voice broke the silence and the Z-Fighters finally breathed a sigh of relief. Soon they found another key signature rush towards them. Mr. Piccolo. Turning towards the small figure rushing towards the battlefield, Krillin once again exclaimed. Gohan? Oh man. Krillin knew stuff just got a lot more complicated, not only because Piccolo was untrustworthy, but because Gohan was here. And Gohan was a Saiyan, with a Saiyan tail and there is a moon right there. If by any chance Gohan transforms too, they were dead. Yamcha Senzu Bean, it's in the bag. Whispered Krillin, he had to get back in full strength, if they risk dying from friendly fire. Nappa and Vegeta also gazed at the new arrivals with interest, specifically at Gohan. A Saiyan child? Is he Kakarotes? And what's this? A Namekian is here as well. This planet sure has many species despite being so weak. Nappa grumbled, although he was quite mad at his inability to kill the two guys yet again, but frankly, he was a tiny bit happy seeing a Sien child once again. It reminded him of the old days, when Planet Vegeta was still around. Back then so many Sien kids were trained by him, but it's been years since he saw one. All would be happy, if not for one fact. Looking at Gohan, Nappa growled, trying to intimidate him, and see what he was made of. You brat. But Nappa was very disappointed. This Sien brat? He was such a coward. What a shitty attitude. That is no way for a Sien to behave. Nappa was not happy at all. He will try and push the kid. He will try and teach him to unearth his Sien instincts. But if this trembling fool continued being such a mess, there is no need for such a half-breed to exist. He will only make the Sien name worse. Nappa decided, he will play the enemy to the kid. Everyone else was free game, but unless the kid refused to learn, Nappa will try and make him learn. And what better way than to kill these trash to make this little guy angry? Nappa was an old trainer. He was well aware Siens like this kid unearthed their potential only in extreme anger. Usually cowards like this kid were the ones to get killed first, but Nappa will make an exception this time. Unless he did that, this kid won't survive a single second. Is everyone here? Anyone else remaining? Good, now all of you can die. Boom. Piccolo's eyes shrunk. He quickly shifted his body, but his left side was caught by the Uzura's tail, tearing him apart. Gawk. Mr. Piccolo. Unlike Kanon, right now Piccolo was one of the weakest ones here. He was the only who trained alone and didn't have the time chamber to back him up. He was stuck at 3,500, his full power in Kanon timeline, so while that was nothing to scoff at, he was absolutely trash compared to 40,000. No, Mr. Piccolo. Go Gohan, get away. And he was suffering for that, as he was now covered in green blood, missing his left side, and Nappa was coming for the trembling Gohan. Chapter 46 Raditz arrives just when the Z-fighters were getting massacred and Gohan was getting a beatdown of his life. Few meters away from the battlefield, a tall shadow was standing with an irritated expression. Satan, the Namekian almost died just now, and Kakarot's son is getting his teeth kicked in. They are hanging by a thread there. If I don't go now, I won't have anything remaining to go to. These guys are about to bite the dust any second. Raditz was pissed off and tapping his foot on the ground. Satan meanwhile was behind him with a headphone and high-tech laptop. Giving him a wait hand sign, Satan spoke while maintaining extreme concentration on the stats. Just a little more, the audience needs to understand how big of a threat these guys are. And that's when you'll sweep in to save the day. The hero always arrives last, or else how will they know how strong the villains are? Raditz gave Satan a blank look while in the background Yamcha screamed bloody murder. Satan also recoiled from the sheer pain in that voice, and laughed nervously. Oh okay boss, I'll handle it from here. Do you want to have this cape? It's good for entry. Looking at the white cape, Raditz remembered Paragus who wore such a garb, and shook his head. Raditz was more of a Broly guy than Paragus, and he had his own set of fancy clothes right now anyway. No need, Bulma gave me this new armor, although it's much more noticeable in the battlefield, it's the same design as my previous one. Bulma made a new armor for Raditz based on his previous Broly-style armor. It was the exact same design, but with Dragon Ball Super Vegeta's color scheme, the one Bulma had gifted him, which he seems to have ditched just as fast. The white, yellow, and gray and color combination, a very vibrant and royal look. Seems like these are Bulma's favorite colors, gray tights, white armor with yellow highlights, and lastly this yellow artificial fur. I'll rock this from now on. Nuo, Mr. Piccolo. Shaha, kid, looks like his head isn't in the right place. Turning his head towards Piccolo's now snapped neck, Raditz twitched his eyebrows. Shit. On the battlefield, Nappa was looking down at the dead Namekian and the crying Gohan. He didn't manage to make Gohan mad, the boy was far too much of a crybaby, who raised such a Sien. Shame on them? And by now Nappa had frankly run out of patience. This boy was a weakling, he wasn't worth the time. Looking at the broken bodies of the Z-fighters, Nappa scoffed. I suppose it's time to say goodbye fellas. So dash. Beep. 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 Both Nappa and Vegeta's scouter began ringing. It was showing a sizable power level was approaching them from above. Looking up, the Sien duo gazed at the sky, where a black dot was now visible, obviously the guy their scouters detected. 1,200? Another one? You guys keep coming like cockroaches. I'll just kill him right in the sky. Nappa growled, but the Z-fighters were not afraid. They looked like they were about to laugh. And Krillin was indeed laughing, grabbing his broken ribs. Ha ha ha, he is here, guys. Huffing and puffing, Yamcha raised his head. His entire body was currently broken, so that was the only thing he could move. But that was enough for him. He turned towards Nappa and Vegeta, and said with newfound confidence. Kill him? You don't stand a chance against him. All of us together are no match for him. As if getting a second wind from sensing this key, the Z-fighters picked themselves up. All of them were in rough shape. But they were warriors. Fighting the pain was a skill each one of them had. He will kill us both. Nappa looked at the sky with narrowed eyes. His sharp Azuro eyesight had by now found a striking feature in this descending shadow. A tail? Sien? That's Kakarot. Vegeta said with a frown, something Nappa heard and also agreed to. So Kakarot's your new helper? He's a low-class Sien. He is no match for us. The shakily standing Krillin grinned with one of his eye closed. That's not Goku. That's Dash. Raditz. Nappa's shocked exclamation completed Krillin's words, who seeing Raditz arrive just collapse on his butt. Looking at the man who slowly floated downwards and stood before them, facing the Syuns, Krillin was finally relaxed. If you took even a little longer we would be done for, said Krillin, to which Raditz promptly gave an apologetic expression. Satan held me back, you guys look like sorry sights, patch yourself up. And Namekian, stop pretending to be dead, Kakarot's child is crying his eyes out. Piccolo's head snapped, his eyes open and looked pissed, he was trying to accumulate energy and catch the Syuns off guard. But his act was taken apart. Is he on our side now? How? Thought Piccolo, who immediately regenerated his neck back in place and stood up warily, but Gohan ran towards him and began crying. Ignoring the facade going on behind him, Raditz decided to concentrate his attention back towards his previous partners, and found Vegeta, who was looking utterly pissed. Raditz? You absolute trash, you better have a damn good reason why you are still standing here before me. But greeting Vegeta wasn't the usual look of a low-class warrior, it was the complete arrogance of a pure-blooded Syun. Folding his own hands, Raditz looked at Vegeta with a smirk overflowing with arrogance, to which Vegeta was so surprised that he raised his eyebrows, and then in his disbelief, Raditz ignored him completely and turned towards Nappa. It's been a while Nappa. I heard, you wanted to revive me. I'll remember the favor. Saying thanks the Syunwei, Raditz looked at Nappa with calmness. And Nappa by now was starting to come out of his shock. Raditz was still alive? Raditz? You made it? I knew this dump of a planet can't kill you. While Nappa smirked, Raditz was wondering how he should go about this. Nappa was definitely happy seeing him back, but Vegeta on the other hand. He wants to kill me and Nappa both? Because we are useless as soon as he gets immortality? That's such a Vegeta thing to do. Raditz could sense both of his partner's thoughts. Vegeta was beyond help, he understood that immediately. Maybe Goku might be able to do something, not him, but Nappa. Raditz would try to spare him, there were not many of them left alive, Raditz didn't want to lose anyone if possible. Chapter 46 Throne Wars. It's great that you are here Raditz, but why didn't you contact us? We thought you died. Asked Nappa, but his Uzuru form required Raditz to look up. Why didn't I contact you? Well Nappa, you left your communication on, and I heard that I wasn't needed anymore. Isn't it Vegeta, the prince of all three Syuns? What good is a prince if he can't even keep his only remaining race? Vegeta's intense glare and Nappa's scared shitless expression didn't shake Raditz at all. Looking at Vegeta, Raditz continued. You Vegeta, you are thinking of killing me and Nappa after this aren't you? Nappa looked very scared, he was cursing Raditz now, why was he antagonizing Vegeta? Raditz? Stop making a fool of yourself? Vegeta, he is just upset that you decided to not revive him immediately. Caine 8th. Nappa's cheek was cut abruptly from a thin energy beam shooting from Vegeta's hand. And it wouldn't be his cheek if Nappa didn't move out of the way by instinct, when Nappa wanted to ask with disbelief what Vegeta was doing. Vegeta spoke up, with his energy and rage in full throttle. Both of you are absolute disgrace, none of you need to live. Raditz, you are right, I was planning to kill you and Nappa after I have my immortality, but I have decided against it. Clenching his fist, Vegeta fired a purple energy wave towards the unsuspecting Nappa. I think I'll do it now, you both have long outlived your usefulness. Vegeta, no. Nappa Uzuru's eyes went wide as the attack was now upon him. His inherent fear of Vegeta and this unsuspecting attack caught him off guard. So even as an Oizuru, Nappa was about to perish in the hands of Vegeta. Dying at the hands of Vegeta like this. This was not how I thought my Syun life would end. Pity. But the instant the purple blast was about to disintegrate his body, Raditz flashed before him, his hands stretched forward. Whoom. He stopped the attack by swiftly catching the energy wave in his palm, with that the purple energy beam wasn't able to move even a single inch and only kept blinking in its place. And before Vegeta's and Nappa's shocked gazes, Raditz closed his fist, shrinking the energy ball until, puff, it puffed out of existence. Not looking the least bit winded from taking that attack, Raditz gave Vegeta a disappointed look. What a nasty temper. You always think so greatly of yourself, a king, the best of the best, even when we were children you were like this. But Vegeta, to me you are no king, not even a good prince, always going on and on about Frieza, but look at you, only capable of showing strength by killing your own kind. Pathetic. Shaking his head at the fuming Vegeta, Raditz sighed. You disappoint me Vegeta. Hearing Raditz's disrespectful tone, Nappa was afraid, he wasn't able to understand how Raditz got so strong. And now Raditz was denouncing Vegeta's throne, right after taking his attack head-on, even after knowing what that means in Syun culture. Raditz. Why, you don't stand a chance against him. You can't defeat him. Asked Nappa, but he was no longer supporting Vegeta in his speech. Vegeta had lost the rights the moment he tried to kill him. Because Nappa knew, Raditz might not have done such drastic things if he wasn't trying to save him. For you? Nah man, just trying to talk some sense into Vegeta. Doesn't look like it's working though. Damn it Goku, what's taking you so long? I cannot talk this prideful buffon out of his blind confidence. Seeing that Raditz kept mum at Nappa's question, Vegeta was the one who began speaking. With rage overflowing from his body. You got us in a key boost from surviving didn't you Raditz, and now you think you can take me on? Laughable. Just because you have learned this power level hiding trick doesn't mean you can confuse me, our scouters are useless against you. No matter how prideful Vegeta was, he was still an elite. Just like Canon, he quickly put 2 and 2 together and understood Raditz was hiding his strength. Although he was wrong on his strength boost being a pure Zanaki thing, he was right for the most part. Nappa hearing that quickly regained hope. If Raditz can truly match Vegeta, they both might be able to take him down by teaming together. Raditz? Quickly look at the power ball. We have to take him now, urged Nappa, who for the first time in his life, was going to take a stand against Vegeta for real. But to Nappa's shock, Raditz shook his head. No need, Nappa. Raditz was trying to say no need for the Uzuru, he can take on Vegeta in base just fine. But it came off as something else to Vegeta and Nappa. Wait a second, Raditz said he is disappointed in Vegeta as a prince, that he wasn't worthy. And now he is trying to show that he is stronger than him all on his own? Raditz, you wouldn't? It's impossible. Widening his eyes, the stunned Nappa and frowning Vegeta reached the same conclusion. Hair fluttering, fists clenched, Vegeta began laughing. He laughed loudly for an entire minute, his crazy laughter echoing in the battlefield. Ha 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 ha, Raditz. Looking at Raditz with sheer desire to kill, Vegeta said word by word. You low-class filth, you think you can challenge me, the prince of all Saiyans for the throne, thought Raditz. Then he understood what they were on about. In Saiyan culture, if you wanted to be king you have to prove you were better than the previous king. Both power and ability, this was something obvious given Saiyans being a warrior race, and Raditz knew this from memory as well after coming here. This was why Canon Vegeta was so hell-bent on being better than Goku, because the moment he lost to him, his prince status was in question according to Saiyan tradition. This was the entire reason King Vegeta sent Broly away, because Broly would have been the undoubted king. He was the strongest and the legendary Saiyan of their tribe. Who else was worthy of the title king if not Broly? But that was totally not my intention. I am already the king of Earth. I didn't even think of becoming the prince or king of Saiyans too. But now I can't back away either. That is the biggest disgrace to a Saiyan, to back away after initiating a royal duel. Letting out a breath, Raditz cracked his neck. Looking at Vegeta who was waiting his answer, Raditz decided to get this done. Maybe losing his status might get the guy to straighten up. Chapter 47 Legend, Vegeta, you have been a worthless ruler for far too long. The Saiyan race is almost extinct. Someone needs to step up. It is high time. Looking at Vegeta's increasingly murderous looks, Raditz finally gave up attempting to talk. You are obviously unable to do your job, might as well show you how it's done. Shrugging his shoulders, Raditz looked at Nappa and Vegeta with a smile. Weren't you both curious how I always managed to survive even in the desperate situations? Guess what, Vegeta, if you are worthy, you will find out today. Riling up Vegeta with a haughty tone, Raditz raised doubts in everyone's mind. He had an idea that he was going to use, for that he needed to set some background. In actuality, the old Raditz only survived so many things miraculously because of the Dragon Ball wish, but no one needs to know that. The new king needs a greater aspect than a lucky Zenkai boost, and I have just the thing in mind. Unless Raditz breaks that super elite confidence of his, Vegeta is going to listen to no one. Even after that it's debatable, but at least it's worth a shot. Scoffing with a deep frown which showed Vegeta was definitely somewhat curious and wary, he spoke with impatience. Are you done? I have had enough of this. If you aren't going to attack, then I will. Have it your way then. Nappa, you are our decider, and Kakaro's kid, you are the only other Saiyan here. Look closely, this is a battle deciding your king. Taking his stance, Vegeta looked at Raditz, his scouter turned off, he didn't want wrong readings distracting him. Raditz also became serious and took Raditz's original stance. The Z-fighters, sensing the atmosphere, decided to back off. Raditz, fight to kill. Saying best of luck in the Saiyan way, Nappa Uzuru cancelled the artificial moon. He knew he couldn't help Raditz now, but the least he could do was make sure Vegeta can't transform. Because unlike Vegeta, Raditz can't control his transformation, is what Nappa knew, so he acted accordingly. Something which Vegeta caught on. Looking at Nappa, he snorted. Humph, Nappa, I don't need a moon to kill this clown. You are achieving nothing by doing this, only making a fool of yourself. Nappa decided to speak, now that he had shrunk back to his regular size, his Uzuru having lost the trigger. Vegeta, you? But at the end, he didn't say anything. He saw Vegeta grow up. He was the one who raised him for the majority of his life. Seeing him betraying was a tough pill to swallow. He was a loyal Saiyan, but loyalty begets loyalty, and Vegeta, unlike Raditz, clearly didn't care about loyalty, even to his own kin. Raditz, seeing Nappa's depressed mood, and for Gohan's knowledge, spoke of something he felt should also be said for this occasion. You know, Vegeta, we should have every alive Saiyan present for the king's duel, but 3 are still absent. Kakaro's gone to God knows where, and neither of my kids are here. I would have loved to show them their dad taking the throne from the most incompetent dash. Enough. Vegeta's incensed yell rang throughout the battlefield. Looking at Raditz with a look that promised pain, Vegeta's fists clenched. I have had enough of this. You even went ahead and had kids on this backwater planet? Guess what, Raditz? After I kill you, I'll go and kill your family too. This will teach you to respect your prince. Boom. Vegeta's sudden punch was grabbed by Raditz, who had his eyes narrowed. Then with a fluid motion he threw Vegeta to the ground. Boom. Picking him up again, Raditz swung the short prince around in one single pull and banged his back on the hard ground. Boom. Me prince? Ha, puny prince. Boom. Once again Vegeta landed, this time headfirst, cracking the pavement. Boom. After hitting the ground again and again, Vegeta finally got his bearings back. He swiftly brought his arms up aimed at Raditz. With a dangerous amount of energy gathered, Vegeta growled with anger. Perish you low-class filth. Whoom. A purple blast of energy covered Raditz as Vegeta fired from below, giving him no chance at dodging. Raditz. Nappa looked worried. This attack was Vegeta's strongest attack besides Galick Gun, and Raditz took it head-on. Vegeta seems to have taken Raditz's challenge far too seriously. He went almost all out immediately. Ha ha ha, what a fool. But Vegeta's mouth was squeezed shut immediately when a hand came out of the dust cloud, pinching Vegeta's mouth close. Then before Vegeta's bloodshot eyes the hand picked him off the ground like a child, his short stature making him dangle in the air as he kicked his feet hysterically. Vegeta kicked and screamed, but with the hand blocking his mouth, he could only yell inside himself, no matter how angry he was. What a weak attack, said Raditz behind the dust curtain, and then slowly walked out of the thing. How's this possible? He isn't even hurt. Vegeta's hands tried even harder to break free, but Raditz's palm was like Frieza's, he couldn't shake them no matter what. But when he accidentally gazed at Raditz's face, Vegeta was shocked still. Something had changed. What happened to his eyes? What is he? Vegeta thought, and it wasn't only Vegeta who noticed this, it was Nappa and the rest of the Z-fighters too. With the cat finally out of the bag, Raditz smirked at the revelation being made public. Ha ha ha, Vegeta, you know very well what this is, don't you? It's been the legend for so long after all. With his pupils shaking, Vegeta looked at Raditz desperately, but Raditz confirmed his fears once and for all. I always knew I was different. My power level keeps on rising whenever I am in danger, but it goes back to normal afterwards. That's why I never flaunted my specialty. God knows my king won't protect me from Frieza. Maybe he would even try to silence the legend. Isn't that right, Prince Vegeta? His grip loosening, Vegeta gazed at Raditz's golden armor and eyes, which was giving him a strange royal look. Pushing his spiky hair upwards, Raditz growled. This was how I survived all these years when you left me to die. This is the answer to all your questions. I am the son of the legend Vegeta. My power knows no equal. A carry was a son's biological answer to God form. It in fact gave a boost even better than God form, way bigger than a pure Uzuru ever gives. Raditz could indeed keep getting stronger as he uses more and more of the Uzuru boost in his base, biologically keeping ki trapped inside just like the God form does. But I simply can't go that far. Whenever I reach too high a power level, I slip and transform back into an Uzuru. But Vegeta doesn't need to know about this weakness whatsoever. Raditz only needed to scare Vegeta to submission. And looking at the now shocked out of his soul Vegeta and stunned Nappa, Raditz achieved what he wanted to do. The Sun duo found the legend they always considered a beacon. He was always right besides them, they simply didn't know because of the incompetence of the only prince. Giving a smile to Vegeta, Raditz said calmly, I don't know if I have done it, I don't know if this is all there is to it, but if there was a real legend, it would be nothing more than that. Snap. Holding Raditz's arm with surprising ferocity, Vegeta out of nowhere growled, then his other hand immediately smashed into Raditz's chest. Which didn't shake him one bit, but Vegeta seemed to have gone mad, as with bloodshot eyes his hand and Raditz's chest area began glowing purple. What? Vegeta? What are you doing? Do you want to perish with him? Are you insane? Angrily screaming, Nappa was aghast. What the hell was Vegeta doing? Chapter 48. The new King Vegeta didn't stop even when Nappa yelled at him to, even when he was putting himself in the blast's range. For he couldn't stop now, because if he did, that would mean he was always played for a fool by Raditz. He was the real clown. That legend was always besides him, listening to him dream about becoming Super Saiyan one day, all the while knowing he had no chance. I will not stand for this. With a final growl, Vegeta detonated his Galick Gun on Raditz's chest, his hands keeping it pressed on the white armor. Galick Gun. Boom. A purple hemisphere of energy overtook the duo, leaving the audience aghast. Vegeta was putting his entire strength behind it. This was the planet-busting attack he did in canon. Just this time around only Raditz was tanking the blunt of the whole attack. Raditz? This short villain? He is so awful. Launch exclaimed with her hands on her mouth. Pai and Bulma who were sitting beside her looked royally pissed too. Digging her naturally sharp nails on the titanium chair she was sitting on, Pai slapped her tail on the ground angrily. Crack. Causing cracks to form on the floor, Bulma looked upset too, but she looked at Pai with a stare. Hey, keep it down, you will wake those two up, said Bulma with a grumpy tone. Pai gave a startled look at that and looked back, watching two babies lying fast asleep on the bed. One had a mermaid tail and the other boy had a monkey one, with that one special trait of Raditz's family on him. The messy hairstyle Bardock, Goku, and Goten all seemed to inherit. This strong genetic line was once again seen in all its glory within this boy. Looking back herself, Launch waved at the two and laughed in a silly voice, and from the looks of her dazed eyes gaining clarity, she seems to have somehow confirmed Raditz's safety. Hey, Raditz is safe? I just checked the other world, he isn't there yet. As both women sighed with relief, Launch walked up to both the kids and poked the boy she brought into this world on the cheek. Such a cute boy, who knew the night she shared with Raditz that day would result in this. Even Raditz didn't know, she only got to know this after she left for the other world. And then couldn't return until a week ago, missing Raditz all that time. Stupid otherworld rules, stupid Earth's main magician rules. Hehe, and you don't have to worry about these two. Little Bardock is a heavy sleeper, he won't make a noise even when he was just born in otherworld. I was afraid something was wrong, but then Baba told me what really happened. Guess he just wanted to see Raditz again. The last line was said in a mumbling voice by Launch, and she also knew why the other baby came over just as quickly from Pai Pai. These two might be normal babies right now, but it's because they have been cleansed and reincarnated. It was Imagine Bu and Yub's situation, but Launch didn't tell anyone else. She will only tell it to Raditz personally later. Boom asterisk. The women's talks were cut short by the loud crashing noise the TV emitted. Looking back at it, they saw something amazing. Boom, boom, boom. In the battlefield, Raditz was rushing like a bull, his hands clenched around Vegeta's face and his armor was still as spotless as ever. Ah! Vegeta screamed into his mouth as he was being dragged through row after row of buildings, with his head acting like the demolisher. Raditz was using Vegeta's entire body to dig into the hard concrete and metal structure, and he just kept pushing, making a large cave in wherever he went. Finishing the entire row of buildings, Raditz looked down at the bloody Vegeta hanging limp. Clench. Crack. Clenching his hand, grabbing Vegeta's face, which cracked Vegeta's teeth from the sound of it, Raditz finally picked up the limp prince and brought him to his face. Vegeta. Always the sore loser, aren't you? I told you, didn't I? You can't defeat me. I might even be as strong as Frieza now, and I am still growing. I will keep growing every minute and every second. This is the reality, Vegeta. Accept defeat, so I can end this farce. Although Raditz did tell the Vegeta this, he was nowhere close to Frieza, even the first form, much less the final. At least right now. He was currently stuck, unless he wants to push more and turn into Uzura, losing the natural case of ki trapping his Sun body provides with a carry. I can possibly do what Broly did and cut my tail, losing the ability to become Uzura, but Broly had special circumstances. He was going Uzura since forever, and had many tail regrowth phases as a child. But I can't train like that anymore. I have reached the age where I can't regrow my tail if cut, just like Vegeta, so if I try that, I might lose a carry altogether. Considering that possibility, Raditz decided against cutting off his tail for a shot at the complete Akari, or mortal god form as he liked to call it. Akari had way too much potential. Broly was losing to Super Saiyan Vegeta in base, then as soon as he used Akari, it kept him going until he was beating them as gods, but that's where he peaked. Blue Goku could once again defeat him, because that was as strong as Akari could make him. This was the entire reason Frieza was upset Broly couldn't go Super Saiyan. He was losing to Blue Goku. If this was the old Broly, he would have just kept getting stronger with no limits whatsoever, but the canon Broly had clear logical limits. For more power he had to transform into Akari and Super Saiyan respectively. But that's the best part, these forms aren't specific to Broly. Unlike his green-haired form, everything else is something I can replicate. Just when Raditz was thinking about his future power-ups and how he could go on to defeat Frieza, the broken Saiyan Prince suddenly coughed. Ha! Vegeta's panting sound brought Raditz out of his thoughts. He remembered, he had dropped the prince to the ground a while ago. Damn it, said Vegeta with hate. From down here all he could see was Raditz's feet. He, the prince of all Saiyans, was lying at the feet of another. But Vegeta couldn't even gain enough energy to stand up anymore. His previous Galick gun had hurt him more than it did Raditz, and the next beatdown he just received. Damn it! Vegeta banged on the broken pavement, looking up at Raditz with a face that almost looked to be crying, from pain or from his pride getting shattered. That was something only Vegeta knew. And Raditz too. He also knew. You lie. It cannot be. I was supposed to become Super Saiyan. I am a super elite. You are just a low-class Saiyan. How are you the one of the legend? It should have been me, Prince Vegeta. Vegeta hit his head on the floor, with clear tears now streaming down his face. Raditz gave him a hard look. Because he knew Vegeta wept majorly because he felt as if Raditz always knew but treated him like a joke. His pride was hurt more than anything. As for remorse, that wasn't something the Saiyan Prince was capable of feeling currently. Low class? Don't kid yourself, Vegeta. My father was Bardock. I am sure you have heard of him, didn't you? Everyone did. He was a low-class warrior who rose through the ranks all on his own. Smirking haughtily, Raditz continued. And I am his son, Raditz? Wasn't this the entire reason a low class like me was taken into your elite squad? The real reason for this might have been Dragonballs doing their thing somehow through Bardock's status, making sure Raditz could survive the planet Buster. Or it could really be Bardock's potential that spurred the king to put his son, Raditz, into a team with Vegeta. Whatever it was, that was all because of Bardock in the end. Bardock. Bang. With a sudden kick to the chest, Raditz knocked Vegeta out. Vegeta was once again about to go on about how everything was a lucky coincidence, how he will never stop being the Saiyan Prince. And Raditz had given up on trying to convince the guy. To hell with it, he'll just send Vegeta back to Frieza Force or something. He can handle it from there. Nappa announced the results. From a shocked face to a large smile is what Nappa went through. Laughing with relief, Nappa rushed towards Raditz and fell on the floor with a bow. My king, Nappa is at your service. A smile of real relief was constantly on Nappa's face. Not only did he survive, he also knew the legendary Saiyan was always with them. And betrayed the guy himself? What absolute honor. He had no qualms serving the new Saiyan King, especially seeing how he refused to kill Vegeta, just because he was one of his own. Frieza, just you wait, the legend you feared has come true. With these words, Nappa looked up to ingrain the kingly image of Raditz in his mind. Perhaps his appearance resembling a royal garb was not a coincidence, but his plan all along. Chapter 49 Clothes Beam. The touching scene of Nappa pledging his alliance to Raditz was rudely interrupted by a gruff voice. What is the meaning of this? Why aren't you finishing him off? Piccolo's words cut the atmosphere like knife, his eyes starting at Vegeta's unconscious body, and the rest of the Z-fighters seemed to be unsure about this too, but they weren't direct like Piccolo. They trusted Raditz enough to not do something like that. Gohan also seemed as if he wanted to say something to Piccolo, but Piccolo's hard look stopped him from doing that. Grr. Looking towards the Namekian, Nappa growled, this guy dared to sully this scared moment. King, let me go, I'll teach this guy a lesson. Nappa's angry words didn't cause Piccolo to flinch, he was not that weak compared to base Nappa. But Raditz wasn't too upset about the entire thing. This was Piccolo, even Krillin wanted to kill Vegeta in canon. Their current unsure state was entirely due to him being here, just like when Goku asked Krillin to let Vegeta go, they believed him enough to do that. No need Nappa, I understand what they are worried about. Looking at Piccolo's tense body, Raditz smirked. No need to be so tense Namekian. Whoosh. Bang. Piccolo's eyes bulged as Raditz appeared before him and immediately kneed him in the stomach. Cough. Ayek. Collapsing to the ground, Piccolo's eyes were bloodshot, his hands holding his stomach. The Z-fighters were also incredibly shocked by this sudden attack, but Piccolo wasn't one of them quite yet, so they didn't attack Raditz. But Gohan, he immediately ran towards Piccolo with tears threatening to spill, but he didn't cry. Don't hurt Mr. Piccolo. Gohan said with a flash of belief. He was still very much scared, but almost losing Piccolo was such a shock to him, that he was now consciously attempting to get over his fear. Raditz meanwhile looked at the collapsed Piccolo and grinned at Gohan. Beat it kid, this is payback, he collapsed my chest, I collapsed all of him. Now get up and talk, don't make me look down on you Namekian. Gohan held his hands before Piccolo and looked at Raditz angrily. No, you can't hurt Mr. Piccolo dash. Stop it Gohan. Cough. Piccolo pulled Gohan back and gazed at Raditz with serious eyes. While Gohan was confused, no one else was, this was a thing warriors understood. Piccolo was wary of Raditz because of his previous position and was thus questioning him with a malicious angle. But with this attack, our feud is over, is that what you want to say? After attempting to get up, Piccolo stood shakily, but he wasn't giving an angry look anymore. Because instead of false words and fancy promises, this was what he preferred, this was a language he understood well enough. Raditz showed he could kill him any second but chooses not to, and he took the initiative to end their conflict. This was more than enough good faith for Piccolo. After steadying himself, Piccolo breathed out and his white cape materialized on him. Clothes beam, I want it. I so want it. Raditz smiled internally, and went ahead with a friendly smile towards Piccolo. With a smirk, Raditz towered over Piccolo and hugged from the side, his left hand grabbing a hold of him and his right was grabbing Piccolo's head. You. The angry Piccolo looked at Raditz with fire in his eyes. If the previous action was Raditz saying they were cool, this action was him asserting his dominance, and worst of all, Piccolo couldn't move at all after Raditz grabbed onto him. Ha ha ha. Namekian, I am glad we could solve our differences, it's a happy day today, don't be so hard-faced. Tell you what, I'll call you Piccolo, let's be friends. Ha ha ha. Growling with his teeth out, Piccolo snapped at Raditz, but his action seemed funny because he was still trapped by Raditz in a friendly hug. Release me, I have no interest in being friends with you. But Piccolo's yell was only met with suppressed laughter of the Z-fighters, even Gohan was smiling, which turned Piccolo's face red with shame. Once again boisterously laughing Raditz finally released Piccolo, he had already copied what he wanted to do. Hey, your loss, you could have been friends with a king, I might have even taken you to visit Namek, your home planet. Narrowing his eyes, Piccolo scowled, he wasn't happy being shown his place just now and he will definitely get back at him. Raditz and Goku are two of the obstacles he needed to clear before he takes over the world. Although he was still thinking that, somewhere down in his heart, he knew this wasn't his goal anymore. Gohan had affected him more than he will ever admit. But enough about that. Raditz had been dodging the question for a while now. Piccolo won't let that happen. I'll see about Namek myself. Now tell me, what are you planning on doing with that guy? Getting a serious look to himself, Raditz spoke silently. He's a threat. The moment he gets stronger he will return to kill us all. But, even with all his shortcomings, Vegeta has his Saiyan pride. He lost the royal duel. He will honor it, even if he hates it. Shrugging his shoulders as he turned to look at Vegeta's unconscious body being carried by Nappa, he said again. Before he proves himself to be stronger than me, he won't care about anything else. And he can never defeat me, no matter what. Silently catching Raditz's confident words, Piccolo lightly snorted. Picking up Gohan, he turned around and began leaving. If he comes back, it's your problem. Whoosh. Immediately Piccolo flew away with the waving Gohan in tow, who seems to have realized Raditz isn't a bad guy anymore. He couldn't be. He let Mr. Piccolo and his partners go, and he was his uncle too. Snorting with amusement, Raditz gestured to Nappa. Send him to Frieza Base 141. They always have extra healing pods available. Nodding to Raditz, Nappa looked as if he wanted to say something, then made up his mind to say it anyway. King, I think, it's in your best interest to eliminate Vegeta. He is not going to stop unless he kills you. Raditz became mum, then sighed. I'll give him one chance. There are too few of us remaining Nappa. I wouldn't want to kill off an elite. But I understand your concerns. If he returns and wastes this chance, I'll kill him. I don't need a disloyal Xians who attack their king. With a smile forming on his face, Nappa saluted Raditz, and went to place Vegeta in his space pod. He would leave a voice message to Vegeta's scouter and warn him once, for old time's sake. He hoped Vegeta wouldn't let his pride control him later. Chapter 50 Big Brother Vegeta was sent back to Frieza Force silently, and the Z fighters were now beginning to acknowledge the after effects of this battle. Broken bones, torn muscles, large wounds, all in all they were beaten pretty badly. You know, you really hit hard, it still hurts. Krillin mumbled, Nappa being the person he was talking to. Nappa himself only smirked. The lot were currently flying towards the lookout, and Nappa was flying just besides Raditz. Turning towards Krillin, Nappa said with a smile full of confidence. What? Wanna take revenge? I'll take you on anytime. Shaking his hands in a no pose, Krillin's sweat dropped. No way, I was just joking. Ha. Nappa laughed at that but didn't take it further. He could see these guys were associated with his king. The Ginyu Force of King Raditz is what Nappa considered these guys, and he was the Zarbon besides Lord Raditz. I should let King know about this arrangement. It's much better than what King Vegeta had going on during his reign. King Vegeta didn't have as good a governing structure as Frieza does. Frieza might be pure evil, but he is still the ruler of most of the universe. Nappa felt there was a lot to learn from this guy, and he was going to teach it all to Raditz. All in all, Nappa had taken the role of royal advisor by himself. Hey, do you guys feel that? Said Yamcha out of nowhere, bringing Nappa out of his thoughts. He didn't know anything about this sensing business, so he wasn't sure what this guy was saying. But one look at his king told him this guy was not messing around. This sensing stuff was indeed something. The Z fighters all sensed the energy signature coming towards them rapidly and stopped in their tracks. Nappa followed Raditz and did so too. Whoosh! A fast-flying orange figure rushed towards the Z fighters and stopped just before them, making a smooth transition from fast to slow, showing his incredible control over himself. Hey guys! A cheerful voice with a natural smile greeted the Z fighters. Goku! You are back, Goku. Too slow, Goku. Brother. That's Kakarot. What happened to your tail? Everyone showed different degrees of emotions. Goku had the ability to incite the best in everyone. His arrival made joy spread, even when the Z fighters were beaten up pretty badly. Goku only rubbed the back on his head with an embarrassed laugh. Sorry, I was crossing the snack havey again. I got here as fast as I could. Man, you guys look beat. Said Goku while eyeing Nappa and Raditz, the tail on Nappa being a dead giveaway, and Raditz was someone he looked at with a challenging smile. Huh, King Kai told me you are still alive. Raditz crossed his arms and looked at Goku with a smile of his own. What can I say? You were too weak to take me out, Kakarot. Goku smiled with narrowed eyes, showing signs that he was going into his fun fighting mode. But before Goku and Raditz could duke it out again, Yamcha decided to butt in. No way, he wanted to heal. They can fight later. Goku? Raditz took care of the Xians. We tried holding those guys off but they were too strong. And this guy here is Nappa. He decided to join Raditz. Oh, and Raditz is the Xian king now. Krillin also added another thing to the list. And he married Bulma last week too. We were all invited. I'll show you the pictures later. Rubbing his head with a disappointed expression, Goku groaned. Ah, I missed Bulma's wedding. Isn't there cake and food all around in a time like that? Bummer. Nappa twitched his lips. This Kakarot was hit in the head or something. He ignored everything from Xian King to a wedding, and only focused on the food. Even the most casual Xians show respect to the Xian King. But Raditz himself happened to laugh at Goku's words. Ha, Kakarot, I'll throw another reception for you. Go bring your family. Enjoy, it's my treat. And don't be so disappointed that you didn't get to fight. You can fight me. Anyway, Big Brother has to take his revenge. You almost killed me back then. Grinning a Xian grin even when it looked much more playful than prideful on Goku, he said with confidence. We'll see about that, Big Brother. He was accepted by Goku. That much was clear to Raditz. Not only did Goku not stop him from calling him Kakarot, he also called him Big Brother. Maybe it was the free food, or saving the earth, or maybe it was the promise of a fight. It could even be all of them combined that made Goku see him as a big brother instead of a threat. Whatever it was, Raditz wasn't complaining. He had a future god calling him Big Brother. There's no better honor than that. Excellent, let's get going. These guys are in pretty bad shape. We will have our battle on the lookout. There's plenty of room. Alright, now we're talking? Hey guys, let's go. Goku gestured everyone to keep up and the Z fighters laughed as they began to fly towards the lookout again. Goku was in front, right besides Raditz and Nappa, Raditz being the center of the group as they flew. While making small talk with Goku, Raditz was wondering if he should let Kami reverse whatever he did to Goku's tail to stop it from growing. He'll have to see if Goku was willing to go through with it. He will mention it with Kami later. Chapter 51 The new King Vegeta didn't stop even when Nappa yelled at him to, even when he was putting himself in the blast's range. For he couldn't stop now, because if he did, that would mean he was always played for a fool by Raditz. He was the real clown. That legend was always besides him, listening to him dream about becoming Super Saiyan one day, all the while knowing he had no chance. I will not stand for this. With a final growl, Vegeta detonated his Galick gun on Raditz's chest, his hands keeping it pressed on the white armor. Galick gun. Boom. A purple hemisphere of energy overtook the duo, leaving the audience aghast. Vegeta was putting his entire strength behind it. This was the planet-busting attack he did in canon. Just this time around only Raditz was tanking the blunt of the whole attack. Raditz? This short villain? He is so awful. Launch exclaimed with her hands on her mouth. Pai and Bulma who were sitting beside her looked royally pissed too. Digging her naturally sharp nails on the titanium chair she was sitting on, Pai slapped her tail on the ground angrily. Crack. Causing cracks to form on the floor, Bulma looked upset too, but she looked at Pai with a stare. Hey, keep it down, you will wake those two up, said Bulma with a grumpy tone. Pai gave a startled look at that and looked back, watching two babies lying fast asleep on the bed. One had a mermaid tail and the other boy had a monkey one, with that one special trait of Raditz's family on him. The messy hairstyle Bardock, Goku, and Goten all seemed to inherit. This strong genetic line was once again seen in all its glory within this boy. Looking back herself, Launch waved at the two and laughed in a silly voice, and from the looks of her dazed eyes gaining clarity, she seems to have somehow confirmed Raditz's safety. Hey, Raditz is safe? I just checked the other world, he isn't there yet. As both women sighed with relief, Launch walked up to both the kids and poked the boy she brought into this world on the cheek. Such a cute boy, who knew the night she shared with Raditz that day would result in this. Even Raditz didn't know, she only got to know this after she left for the other world. And then couldn't return until a week ago, missing Raditz all that time. Stupid otherworld rules, stupid Earth's main magician rules. Hehe, and you don't have to worry about these two. Little Bardock is a heavy sleeper, he won't make a noise even when he was just born in otherworld. I was afraid something was wrong, but then Baba told me what really happened. Guess he just wanted to see Raditz again. The last line was said in a mumbling voice by Launch, and she also knew why the other baby came over just as quickly from Pai. These two might be normal babies right now, but it's because they have been cleansed and reincarnated. It was Imagine Bu and Yub's situation, but Launch didn't tell anyone else. She will only tell it to Raditz personally later. Boom asterisk. The women's talks were cut short by the loud crashing noise the TV emitted. Looking back at it they saw something amazing. Boom, boom, boom. In the battlefield Raditz was rushing like a bull, his hands clenched around Vegeta's face and his armor was still as spotless as ever. Ah! Vegeta screamed into his mouth as he was being dragged through row after row of buildings, with his head acting like the demolisher. Raditz was using Vegeta's entire body to dig into the hard concrete and metal structure and he just kept pushing, making a large cave in wherever he went. Finishing the entire row of buildings, Raditz looked down at the bloody Vegeta hanging limp. Clench. Crack. Clenching his hand grabbing Vegeta's face, which cracked Vegeta's teeth from the sound of it, Raditz finally picked up the limp prince and brought him to his face. Vegeta, always the sore loser aren't you? I told you didn't I? You can't defeat me. I might even be as strong as Frieza now, and I am still growing. I will keep growing every minute and every second. This is the reality Vegeta, accept defeat, so I can end this farce. Although Raditz did tell the Vegeta this, he was nowhere close to Frieza, even the first form much less the final, at least right now. He was currently stuck, unless he wants to push more and turn into Uzura, losing the natural case of ki trapping his Saiyan body provides with a carry. I can possibly do what Broly did and cut my tail, losing the ability to become Uzura, but Broly had special circumstances. He was going Uzura since forever, and had many tail regrowth phases as a child. But I can't train like that anymore. I have reached the age where I can't regrow my tail if cut, just like Vegeta, so if I try that, I might lose a carry altogether. Considering that possibility, Raditz decided against cutting off his tail for a shot at the complete Akari, or mortal god form as he liked to call it. Akari had way too much potential. Broly was losing to Super Saiyan Vegeta in base, then as soon as he used Akari, it kept him going until he was beating them as gods, but that's where he peaked. Blue Goku could once again defeat him, because that was as strong as Akari could make him. This was the entire reason Frieza was upset Broly couldn't go Super Saiyan. He was losing to Blue Goku. If this was the old Broly, he would have just kept getting stronger with no limits whatsoever, but the canon Broly had clear logical limits. For more power he had to transform into Akari and Super Saiyan respectively. But that's the best part, these forms aren't specific to Broly. Unlike his green-haired form, everything else is something I can replicate. Just when Raditz was thinking about his future power-ups and how he could go on to defeat Frieza, the broken Saiyan Prince suddenly coughed. Ha! Vegeta's panting sound brought Raditz out of his thoughts. He remembered, he had dropped the prince to the ground a while ago. Damn it, said Vegeta with hate. From down here all he could see was Raditz's feet. He, the prince of all Saiyans, was lying at the feet of another. But Vegeta couldn't even gain enough energy to stand up anymore. His previous Galick gun had hurt him more than it did Raditz, and the next beatdown he just received. Damn it! Vegeta banged on the broken pavement, looking up at Raditz with a face that almost looked to be crying, from pain or from his pride getting shattered. That was something only Vegeta knew. And Raditz too, he also knew. You lie. It cannot be. I was supposed to become Super Saiyan. I am a super elite. You are just a low-class Saiyan. How are you the one of the legend? It should have been me, Prince Vegeta. Vegeta hit his head on the floor, with clear tears now streaming down his face. Raditz gave him a hard look. Because he knew Vegeta wept majorly because he felt as if Raditz always knew but treated him like a joke. His pride was hurt more than anything. As for remorse, that wasn't something the Saiyan Prince was capable of feeling currently. Low class? Don't kid yourself, Vegeta, my father was Bardock. I am sure you have heard of him, didn't you? Everyone did. He was a low-class warrior who rose through the ranks all on his own. Smirking haughtily, Raditz continued. And I am his son, Raditz? Wasn't this the entire reason a low class like me was taken into your elite squad? The real reason for this might have been Dragonballs doing their thing somehow through Bardock's status, making sure Raditz could survive the planet Buster. Or it could really be Bardock's potential that spurred the king to put his son, Raditz, into a team with Vegeta. Whatever it was, that was all because of Bardock in the end. Bardock. Bang. With a sudden kick to the chest, Raditz knocked Vegeta out. Vegeta was once again about to go on about how everything was a lucky coincidence, how he will never stop being the Sun Prince. And Raditz had given up on trying to convince the guy, to hell with it, he'll just send Vegeta back to Frieza Force or something, he can handle it from there. Nappa, announced the results. From a shocked face to a large smile is what Nappa went through. Laughing with relief, Nappa rushed towards Raditz, and fell on the floor with a bow. My king, Nappa is at your service. A smile of real relief was constantly on Nappa's face. Not only did he survive, he also knew the legendary Sun was always with them. And betrayed the guy himself? What absolute honor! He had no qualms serving the new Sun King, especially seeing how he refused to kill Vegeta, just because he was one of his own. Frieza, just you wait, the legend you feared has come true. With these words, Nappa looked up to ingrain the kingly image of Raditz in his mind. Perhaps his appearance resembling a royal garb was not a coincidence, but his plan all along. Chapter 52 Clothes Beam. The touching scene of Nappa pledging his alliance to Raditz was rudely interrupted by a gruff voice. What is the meaning of this? Why aren't you finishing him off? Piccolo's words cut the atmosphere like knife, his eyes starting at Vegeta's unconscious body, and the rest of the Z-fighters seemed to be unsure about this too, but they weren't direct like Piccolo. They trusted Raditz enough to not do something like that. Gohan also seemed as if he wanted to say something to Piccolo, but Piccolo's hard look stopped him from doing that. Grr. Looking towards the Namekian, Nappa growled, this guy dared to sully this scared moment. King, let me go, I'll teach this guy a lesson. Nappa's angry words didn't cause Piccolo to flinch, he was not that weak compared to base Nappa. But Raditz wasn't too upset about the entire thing. This was Piccolo, even Krillin wanted to kill Vegeta in canon. Their current unsure state was entirely due to him being here, just like when Goku asked Krillin to let Vegeta go, they believed him enough to do that. No need, Nappa, I understand what they are worried about. Looking at Piccolo's tense body, Raditz smirked. No need to be so tense, Namekian. Whoosh. Bang. Piccolo's eyes bulged as Raditz appeared before him and immediately kneed him in the stomach. Cough. Ayek. Collapsing to the ground, Piccolo's eyes were bloodshot, his hands holding his stomach. The Z-fighters were also incredibly shocked by this sudden attack, but Piccolo wasn't one of them quite yet, so they didn't attack Raditz. But Gohan, he immediately ran towards Piccolo with tears threatening to spill, but he didn't cry. Don't hurt Mr. Piccolo. Gohan said with a flash of belief. He was still very much scared, but almost losing Piccolo was such a shock to him, that he was now consciously attempting to get over his fear. Raditz meanwhile looked at the collapsed Piccolo and grinned at Gohan. Beat it, kid, this is payback. He collapsed my chest, I collapsed all of him. Now get up and talk, don't make me look down on you, Namekian. Gohan held his hands before Piccolo and looked at Raditz angrily. No, you can't hurt Mr. Piccolo dash. Stop it, Gohan. Cough. Piccolo pulled Gohan back and gazed at Raditz with serious eyes. While Gohan was confused, no one else was. This was a thing warriors understood. Piccolo was wary of Raditz because of his previous position and was thus questioning him with a malicious angle. But with this attack, our feud is over, is that what you want to say? After attempting to get up, Piccolo stood shakily, but he wasn't giving an angry look anymore. Because instead of false words and fancy promises, this was what he preferred, this was a language he understood well enough. Raditz showed he could kill him any second but chooses not to, and he took the initiative to end their conflict. This was more than enough good faith for Piccolo. After steadying himself, Piccolo breathed out and his white cape materialized on him. Clothes beam, I want it. I so want it. Raditz smiled internally, and went ahead with a friendly smile towards Piccolo. With a smirk, Raditz towered over Piccolo and hugged from the side, his left hand grabbing a hold of him and his right was grabbing Piccolo's head. You. The angry Piccolo looked at Raditz with fire in his eyes. If the previous action was Raditz saying they were cool, this action was him asserting his dominance, and worst of all, Piccolo couldn't move at all after Raditz grabbed onto him. Ha ha ha, Namekian, I am glad we could solve our differences, it's a happy day today, don't be so hard-faced. Tell you what, I'll call you Piccolo, let's be friends. Ha ha ha. Growling with his teeth out, Piccolo snapped at Raditz, but his action seemed funny because he was still trapped by Raditz in a friendly hug. Release me, I have no interest in being friends with you. But Piccolo's yell was only met with suppressed laughter of the Z-fighters, even Gohan was smiling, which turned Piccolo's face red with shame. Once again boisterously laughing, Raditz finally released Piccolo. He had already copied what he wanted to do. Hey, your loss, you could have been friends with a king. I might have even taken you to visit Namek, your home planet. Narrowing his eyes, Piccolo scowled. He wasn't happy being shown his place just now and he will definitely get back at him. Raditz and Goku are two of the obstacles he needed to clear before he takes over the world. Although he was still thinking that, somewhere down in his heart, He knew this wasn't his goal anymore. Gohan had affected him more than he will ever admit. But enough about that. Raditz had been dodging the question for a while now. Piccolo won't let that happen. I'll see about Namek myself. Now tell me, what are you planning on doing with that guy? Getting a serious look to himself, Raditz spoke silently. He's a threat. The moment he gets stronger he will return to kill us all. But even with all his shortcomings, Vegeta has his Saiyan pride. He lost the royal duel. He will honor it, even if he hates it. Shrugging his shoulders as he turned to look at Vegeta's unconscious body being carried by Nappa, he said again. Before he proves himself to be stronger than me, he won't care about anything else. And he can never defeat me, no matter what. Silently catching Raditz's confident words, Piccolo lightly snorted. Picking up Gohan, he turned around and began leaving. If he comes back, it's your problem. Whoosh. Immediately Piccolo flew away with the waving Gohan in tow, who seems to have realized Raditz isn't a bad guy anymore. He couldn't be. He let Mr. Piccolo and his partners go, and he was his uncle too. Snorting with amusement, Raditz gestured to Nappa. Send him to Frieza Base 141. They always have extra healing pods available. Nodding to Raditz, Nappa looked as if he wanted to say something, then made up his mind to say it anyway. King, I think it's in your best interest to eliminate Vegeta. He is not going to stop unless he kills you. Raditz became mum, then sighed. I'll give him one chance. There are too few of us remaining, Nappa. I wouldn't want to kill off an elite. But I understand your concerns. If he returns and wastes this chance, I'll kill him. I don't need a disloyal Saiyans who attack their king. With a smile forming on his face, Nappa saluted Raditz, and went to place Vegeta in his space pod. He would leave a voice message to Vegeta's scouter and warn him once, for old time's sake. He hoped Vegeta wouldn't let his pride control him later. Chapter 53 Big Brother Vegeta was sent back to Frieza 4 silently, and the Z-fighters were now beginning to acknowledge the after effects of this battle. Broken bones, torn muscles, large wounds, all in all they were beaten pretty badly. You know, you really hit hard, it still hurts. Krillin mumbled, Nappa being the person he was talking to. Nappa himself only smirked. The lot were currently flying towards the lookout, and Nappa was flying just besides Raditz. Turning towards Krillin, Nappa said with a smile full of confidence. What? Wanna take revenge? I'll take you on anytime. Shaking his hands in a no pose, Krillin's sweat dropped. No way, I was just joking. Ha. Nappa laughed at that but didn't take it further. He could see these guys were associated with his king. The Ginyu Force of King Raditz is what Nappa considered these guys, and he was the Zarban besides Lord Raditz. I should let King know about this arrangement. It's much better than what King Vegeta had going on during his reign. King Vegeta didn't have as good a governing structure as Frieza does. Frieza might be pure evil, but he is still the ruler of most of the universe. Nappa felt there was a lot to learn from this guy, and he was going to teach it all to Raditz. All in all, Nappa had taken the role of royal advisor by himself. Hey, do you guys feel that? Said Yamcha out of nowhere, bringing Nappa out of his thoughts. He didn't know anything about this sensing business, so he wasn't sure what this guy was saying. But one look at his king told him this guy was not messing around. This sensing stuff was indeed something. The Z-fighters all sensed the energy signature coming towards them rapidly and stopped in their tracks. Nappa followed Raditz and did so too. Whoosh! A fast-flying orange figure rushed towards the Z-fighters and stopped just before them, making a smooth transition from fast to slow, showing his incredible control over himself. Hey guys! A cheerful voice with a natural smile greeted the Z-fighters. Goku! You are back, Goku. Too slow, Goku. Brother. That's Kakarot. What happened to your tail? Everyone showed different degrees of emotions. Goku had the ability to incite the best in everyone. His arrival made joy spread, even when the Z-fighters were beaten up pretty badly. Goku only rubbed the back on his head with an embarrassed laugh. Sorry, I was crossing the snack highway again. I got here as fast as I could. Man, you guys look beat, said Goku while eyeing Nappa and Raditz, the tail on Nappa being a dead giveaway, and Raditz was someone he looked at with a challenging smile. Huh, King Kai told me you are still alive. Raditz crossed his arms and looked at Goku with a smile of his own. What can I say? You were too weak to take me out, Kakarot. Goku smiled with narrowed eyes, showing signs that he was going into his fun fighting mode. But before Goku and Raditz could duke it out again, Yamcha decided to butt in. No way, he wanted to heal. They can fight later. Goku? Raditz took care of the Saiyans. We tried holding those guys off but they were too strong. And this guy here is Nappa. He decided to join Raditz. Oh, and Raditz is the Saiyan King now. Krillin also added another thing to the list. And he married Bulma last week too. We were all invited. I'll show you the pictures later. Rubbing his head with a disappointed expression, Goku groaned. Ah, I missed Bulma's wedding. Isn't there cake and food all around in a time like that? Bummer. Nappa twitched his lips. This Kakarot was hit in the head or something. He ignored everything from Saiyan King to a wedding, and only focused on the food. Even the most casual Saiyans show respect to the Saiyan King. But Raditz himself happened to laugh at Goku's words. Ha, Kakarot, I'll throw another reception for you. Go bring your family. Enjoy, it's my treat. And don't be so disappointed that you didn't get to fight. You can fight me. Anyway, Big Brother has to take his revenge. You almost killed me back then. Grinning a Saiyan grin even when it looked much more playful than prideful on Goku, he said with confidence. We'll see about that, Big Brother. He was accepted by Gaku, that much was clear to Raditz. Not only did Gaku not stop him from calling him Kakarot, he also called him Big Brother. Maybe it was the free food, or saving the earth, or maybe it was the promise of a fight. It could even be all of them combined that made Gaku see him as a big brother instead of a threat. Whatever it was, Raditz wasn't complaining. He had a future god calling him Big Brother. There's no better honor than that. Excellent, let's get going. These guys are in pretty bad shape. We will have our battle on the lookout. There's plenty of room. Alright, now we're talking? Hey guys, let's go. Gaku gestured everyone to keep up and the Z-fighters laughed as they began to fly towards the lookout again. Gaku was in front, right besides Raditz and Nappa, Raditz being the center of the group as they flew. While making small talk with Gaku, Raditz was wondering if he should let Kami reverse whatever he did to Gaku's tail to stop it from growing. He'll have to see if Gaku was willing to go through with it. He will mention it with Kami later. Chapter 54 Shortcut. The group of Z-fighters landed on the lookout. Kami was standing there waiting for them, his back straight and his cane straighter. Smiling with his age wrinkles deepening, Kami spoke. You saved the Earth again, well done. As Earth's Kami I thank you. Gaku, you are a bit late this time around. Kami's playful remark only made Gaku laugh with an embarrassed smile. Putting his hands together, Gaku exclaimed. Sorry, I was late on the snack AVE. Hey Raditz, let's fight. The abrupt change of topic didn't surprise anyone. This was Gaku after all, and he was training for an entire year to fight the Saiyans. He was in full fighting mood right now. It's a surprise he could stop it until now. It might be because the gang was injured and he wanted them to get help first. Raditz folded his hands and agreed right away. It would be weird if he lives in Dragonball and Dosen-T fight Gaku, and there was also revenge. I don't mind, but first, Kami, I heard you did something to make sure Kakarot Dosen-T regrow his tail. Can you remove that spell or whatever you did? After a certain age Saiyans can no longer regrow tails, but Gaku's was sealed or stopped before that. If by chance there is indeed a regrown tail in Gaku which was somehow hidden and deactivated by Kami, Gaku could have his tail back. But if it's a surgical and magical removal, then Gaku's tail might a lost cause. He is beyond the regrowth stage at this point. His tail. Well, I suppose I could remove the spell binding it. I see the Saiyans can control their transformations. Turning to Nappa, Kami said the next word. Would you be helping Gaku control his? Kami saw only Nappa do it up to now. He didn't pay attention to Raditz or the tournament. He was too busy training the Z-fighters. Before Nappa could answer, Gaku did. My tail? Huh, why would I want that back? Snapping at Gaku, Nappa said with a berating tone. Kakarot, that's your Saiyan heritage, you can't just cast it away like that. Raditz added from the sides. It makes you stronger, that's a transformation of our species, it's controllable, think of it as a power boost. You will be able to fight stronger opponents with it. Rubbing his chin, Gaku looked confused. Well, I don't know, he said. Gaku looked confused at the prospect, and Raditz knew why. He was thinking of what he had done to Grandpa Gohan as a child. He was also wondering if his new sense of balance with a tail will throw him off. He was always having trouble with balance as soon as he lost his tail as a child. It would be the same now if he gained it back. He was too used to not having it anymore. But Nappa didn't know what Gaku was thinking. This Kakarot was too disrespectful to King. He might be the king's brother, but the least he could do is agree when the king says something. That's it, pal, fight me. I'll show you what a tail can do for a Saiyan. Nappa's challenge was met with a curious look from Gaku, who smiled and accepted it anyway. Nappa looked weak. He could blitz him using one Kaioken, but let's see how much a tail powers him up. Alright, let's do this. With pleasure. Prepare to bite the dust, Kakarot. Nappa's remarks only further excited Gaku instead of offending him. Let's see what he got. Kami looked at the two Saiyans rearing to go and gestured the others to back off. Mr. Popo, please heal the others, and Gaku, you and Nappa can fight over there. Pointing to the center of the lookout, Kami gave his permission, but Raditz stopped him for a second. Wait a second, Kami, can you restore the moon? Using Power Ball while possible, weakens the user a bit. Maintaining that thing takes a lot of energy and concentration after all. Nappa without the Power Ball could truly show all of his 40,000 power level. Gaku will get a fight on par with Vegeta with Nappa alone. Vegeta's Great Ape in the original was not only the Great Ape of a herd Vegeta, it was also using a Power Ball simultaneously. He was not at his full capacity when he fought Gaku. Kami looked startled for a second, then nodded gravely. I see, I will get it done. Sorry, my evil half Piccolo destroyed it a while ago. I didn't get the time to fix it yet. With that said, Kami looked at the sky and sharpened his eyes. He raised his staff and pointed towards the sky. HAAA. Kami glowed with a pure white aura and instantly a see-through shape was starting to appear in the night sky. Raditz looked at the thing with amazement. This was the clothes beam? It's not limited to just clothes. Piccolo made Gohan's sword and sheath using the same technique, and this is similar to what Supreme Kai used to create that Kachin block. Watching Kami use it to make the moon, Raditz realized something. The creation gods and the destruction gods have the ability to create and the ability to destroy. Shin, Kami, and Kami's other half Piccolo are all either nurturing gods or connected to nurturing gods. Their jobs are what comes under creation, even if not directly. This was something Zamasu was told by his master. Then there is the destruction god. We only know one for sure in this universe, Beerus, the top dog, and his destruction domain is Hakai. Wait, so can I even use the clothes beam? I haven't tried it. Is this something only gods or their connected can do? Hey, doesn't Earth's Kami automatically have God Ki then? Wasn't Dende sensing Boris? So if I become Earth's Kami, will I simply gain God Ki just like that? So that's all I gotta do to become a Super Saiyan God then? Nah, that can't be right, could it? So if Goku way back in Dragon Ball accepted the role of Kami, he would be God right away? Sick. Huff, we are done. Kami's words shook Raditz out of his cranky thoughts. God, or something he will ask Kami later. Right now, he wanted to see how Kaioken is done. Goku's best technique, and Raditz knew for a fact he could copy it. If Goku could do it, so can he. The same genetics are at play here. Chapter 55 Goku vs Nappa. Goku and Nappa were facing each other on the lookout. Goku was jumping up and down, relaxing his body. Nappa also lowered his body to take his specific stance. Then with a smirk he pointed towards his scouter. Let's see what you got, Kakarot. Beep. 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 What? 5,000? Impossible. Growling with light sweat coming from his head, Nappa gazed seriously at Goku, who had a relaxed but focused look to him. But Raditz couldn't watch Nappa start the battle with wrong information. He had to at least let him know what he was up against. So folding his hands, Raditz spoke to Nappa. Nappa, don't be fooled. Kakarot isn't 5,000. He is suppressing himself. He is over 8,000. Sorry fellas, no over 9,000 joke here. Sticking to the canon over 8,000. Whitening his eyes, Nappa's mouth opened with shock. What? Over 8,000? How's that possible? Aren't you a low-class dash? No, it makes sense. You are the brother of the Saiyan King Raditz, and he is the legendary Super Saiyan. Letting out a breath, Nappa now removed the overconfidence he had before facing Goku. He was going to take this seriously now. Directly looking at the newly created moon, Nappa focused his mind and began experiencing the primal transformation every Saiyan has. Girl. Goku was shocked and jumped out of the way of the growing Oizuro, his eyes widening. So this is what happens. Goku for the first time in his life saw an Uzuro. He understood he must have turned into something similar when he killed Grandpa Gohan. And his ki, it's huge. Thought Goku as his blood began pumping. He was getting excited to fight. And if this guy was the weaker one of the two, how strong was the other guy? And how strong was Raditz, who beat him? Even Kaioken times 4 won't cut it, and King Kai told me to not go beyond a 2. Guess I just gotta see what I am made of. Sorry King Kai. Just when Goku was making battle plans, Nappa was done transforming. His red eyes looked at Goku menacingly. Here I come, Kakarot. A large booming voice echoed and Nappa swiftly flashed towards Goku. Nappa figured Goku was 8,000 plus so he can finish it off in one strike. But Goku's sudden spike of red aura and the sharp pain he felt on his chin threw his plans out of the window. Staggering back from the kick, Nappa took on a defensive stance. He normally would have raged, but this was the king's brother. Who knows what he might have under his sleeve. What was that? That wasn't an attack of 8,000. Nappa asked gruffly, rubbing his chin which was beginning to hurt less by the second due to the sheer durability of an Uzuro. Goku also cancelled the red aura surrounding him and landed on the ground. He was breathing a lot harder, even his hands were shaking. He had just used a Kaioken times 3, if someone was counting, they would have found he was over 24,000 for that split second. Man, this is intense, I feel like I have broken my bones. King Kai wasn't kidding, huh? Mumbled Goku, but that smile was on his face anyway, the only difference being that it was a bit painful. Looking at Nappa and grinning with pain, Goku simply told his opponent his technique. He would have more fun that way. I just used Kaioken, it multiples my energy with each use. I am not supposed to go beyond a 2 but I ended up using a 3, but it's still not enough, hehe. Goku's words just shook Nappa, a technique which increases power, and by 2 and 3 does he mean 2 or 3 times? So that's why it hurt so much. You just kicked me with over 24,000 power level. But I am 40,000 Kakarot. You can't defeat me if only 3 times hurts you so badly. Grinning a ferocious grin, Nappa attacked immediately. His and Vegeta Uzuro was trained to near perfection. Nappa, just like Vegeta, was very swift even in his Uzuro form. That was something which took Goku by surprise in his canon fight against Vegeta. Oh crap. Boom. And from the looks of it, it took him by surprise even here. After all, this was against the norm. The big ones were usually slower. Getting up from the cracked tiles, Goku immediately moved out of the way, where the very next second Nappa's Uzuro leg was stepping on. Oh boo, Kaioken times 3. Bam. Nappa caught Goku's kick this time around and immediately smacked him back. Goku again used a 3 times Kaioken to get out of the way. But he was losing strength very quickly. This was the first time he had used Kaioken in a fight. He was far from the Goku who learned to use it in short bursts against Frieza. Wow, Goku's getting tossed around, said Krillin, who just came back from getting patched up. The others were still getting their treatment, and he decided to come watch the fight with Raditz. Watching the fight seriously, Raditz also commented, "Brother, doesn't he have this new technique down yet? If he gets it down, he'll be a force to be reckoned with." Raditz didn't speak much. He was trying to copy the technique by watching. This was something he wanted to do, because even Yamcha could do this. Not everyone he could mind read. People like Frieza aren't possible to just walk up to and copy whatever you want from. So he was developing his key sense to copy techniques by feelings alone. Yeah, that's true, but man, if even Goku is losing to Nappa, we would have been toast without you. Twitching his lips, Raditz didn't comment on Krillin's words. While true, Goku does save the day somehow in the series. And knowing him, he would definitely have thought of something if push comes to shove. Not really, look, right now he was purposefully avoiding Nappa's tail. It's because he purely wants to fight. He would have gone straight for the tail and kept Kaioken a surprise in a real battle. Taking a deep breath, Raditz touched his chest. I would know, his battle IQ is immense, he takes after father in that regard. Scratching his cheek, Krillin smiled with a nostalgic look. I guess you are right, Gaku really does know what to do. And with that both turned silent, all they wanted to do was watch the massive giant fight a red blur. Gaku, Nappa, Raditz, and Krillin, everyone was having fun with this fight in their own ways, that was how simple the life of warriors was. Chapter 56 Author's Guide to Power Levels. While power levels are not the focus of the story, I will attempt to explain the reasoning behind the power structure. Dragonball is a bit vague about strength after Namek, and for good reason. This story will be following in its footsteps shortly. Until then, here's the bare bones. P.S. If number crunching isn't your thing, just scroll down to the conclusion. ______________. To not inflate the numbers too much, short values will be used, and in place of Raditz, Canon Broly will be used, him being the closest transformation-wise to Raditz. Assigning base Gaku at 10 points. In DBS, Broly is revealed to be stronger than base Gaku and Vegeta, but he is also found to be weaker than their Super Saiyan transformations. This is demonstrated when Broly had to trigger a carry against SS Vegeta to keep up. Taking into consideration his overall performance against base and SS respectively, base Broly is surpassing 10 but is quite a bit below 500. So base Broly can be assigned a respectable 300. Now for Broly's carry, there are two possible options. First, it is Uzura's basic 10 times boost. Second, it is a different boost altogether, being a better way to use Uzura's power. Asterisk option 1. Base Broly, 300. A carry Broly, 3000. Base Gaku, 10. Super Saiyan Gaku, 500. Super Saiyan 2 Gaku, 1000. Super Saiyan 3 Gaku, 4000. With 50, 100, 400 being the official multipliers of the forms respectively. Source, the official guidebook and Daisenshu 7. Now here comes the issue, if Iakri gives a basic 10 times boost, Broly is already losing to a Super Saiyan 3 Gaku. Even when highballing his base to 500, it would give him only 5000, which makes him just equal to Super Vegeto. When base Vegeto is 10 times 10, then Super Vegeto would be 5000. Source, DBZ Super Exciting Guide. But a carry Broly is not only stronger than God Gaku, he was also taking hits from Blue Gaku, although he wasn't winning, and Vegeto isn't even in the same ballpark as God Gaku. Gaku himself confirmed this. Source, Battle of Gods. This makes a carry being 10 times a redundant option. Canon Broly follows a logical path to power. He doesn't simply get stronger without limits like Og Broly. To fight stronger opponents he has to transform just like every other Saiyan. This was established in his first canon appearance. Broly was losing to Vegeta in base. He had to transform into a carry to fight back. Then he was losing to Gaku in blue and would have lost according to Frieza and Paragus if he wasn't forced into Super Saiyan. Source, DBS, Broly. This dichotomy alone makes the option in question void. Asterisk option 2. Base Broly, 300. A carry Broly, 5000, Super Vegeto. From the get-go, this equation shows a multiplier higher than 10. Considering we know next to nothing about God multipliers, there can only be vague conclusions. Base Broly base Gaku. SS Gaku base Broly. A carry Broly God Gaku. Blue Gaku a carry Broly. SS a carry Broly Blue Gaku. Blue Vegeto SS/LSS Broly. This roughly puts Broly's a carry and Gaku's God form at a similar boost, which would make Iakri something akin to a biological alternative to God level strength without knowing anything about God Ki. ____________. Conclusion. A carry and SS God give a similar increase in strength. Neither God form nor a carry is specific to either users. If conditions permit, anyone can use any from. Raditz has used this knowledge to create his own path, a path specific to him. Hope that clears it up. Chapter 57 Frieza. A few days passed after Gaku and Nappa's battle. This clash once again showed Raditz how good Gaku was at fighting, because the man actually managed to fight Uzura Nappa to a standstill. Nobody won, but fighting with such a big disparity was something unthinkable for anyone else. Nappa shouldn't even be injured the way he was. Kakarot. Raditz's head turned hearing Nappa's mumbles, and he found Nappa attempting mediation and failing from his anger. Knowing this is no way to continue, Raditz left Android T's torso that he was working on and walked up to Nappa. K-King. Without even needing to be told, Nappa opened his eyes, which made Raditz smile. Nappa could actually sense him now, even though he was constantly getting distracted by his loss against Gaku. Nappa was talented alright. He also had more experience than a lot of people. Knowing that, Raditz was trying to dig out that potential. I expect nothing less from my right-hand man. You managed to get sensing down within 3 days, excellent. But Nappa, if you want to grow further, you have to learn how to calm down. I can sense there is a way forward for every Saiyan. It won't work with an angry mind. Hanging his head out of shame, Nappa contemplated Raditz's words. He knew Raditz was the legendary Super Saiyan, so his feelings about their potential should be true. But he had a hard time wrapping his head around the concept of Kakarot almost defeating him. He was Uzura, for God's sake. This shouldn't have happened. It's a shame to lose my first fight as your right-hand man, your majesty. Waving his hand, Raditz sat on the air with his hands folded. Think nothing of it. Brother is a true warrior. His ability to keep thinking in difficult situations is immense. Nodding his head, Nappa sighed. He knew that, but still losing in such a shameful way irked him. But now he won't show his rage any longer. He was also a Xian, a natural-born warrior. Instincts to fight was in every Xian's blood. Nappa had them too. I'll defeat Kakarot. This was how Nappa decided to channel his anger. He focused the entirety of it on defeating Goku, and Raditz had no issues with that. Goku had already challenged him multiple times, and Raditz didn't even need to transform to defeat Goku, so Raditz was getting kinda bored of fighting. Goku didn't go through his Namek time training regimen yet. He only was a slightly better than what he was when he left King Kai, but Raditz was constantly growing stronger naturally, his Oa's row to base method pushing him along. You do that. Don't let anger distract you any longer. I don't mind you losing, but my right-hand man cannot always keep losing. I understand, King. Giving a royal salute to Raditz, Nappa smiled, but just when he wanted to speak again. Hey brother. Goku's voice broke his flow, turning towards the sky where Goku was currently falling from. Nappa clenched his teeth. Here comes Kakarot again. Can't he see King is going easy on him because he is King's brother? Nappa was both angry yet somewhat proud that Goku had the courage to come every day even after losing repeatedly. Getting up from the ground, Nappa menacingly walked up to Goku and pointed his finger at his chest. Kakarot, you have some nerve coming to the royal palace every day? You are not to visit unless you are called for. Making a sad face, Goku tried to wiggle his way in like he always did. Don't be like that, Nappa, it'll be fun. She's not there and Gohan is sleeping? I came as soon as he slept. If I am late he'll wake up. Twitching his lips, Nappa scolded Goku mercilessly. Your mate's just as dumb as you are, Kakarot. Deciding to run off to the city we were attacking with a mountain of books in hand, for your kid to study mid-battle. Seriously, who does that? This planet's army was attacking the place. And you getting bored is not the king's problem. Weren't you going to revive your mate? Get on with it and leave at once. Wilting like a plant, Goku sighed. But the Dragon Balls won't recharge for an entire year. I was just revived. I have to wait another year to get her back. And that's not fair. Brother is the king. He doesn't mind me coming here. But before Nappa and Goku could argue further, Nappa's scouter beeped to life. Beep beep beep. It was a steady continuous beep, which signified a call rather than a power scan. Widening his eyes, Nappa looked at the person who was calling him and turned to Raditz. King. It's Vegeta, should I pick it up? This also had Raditz raise his eyebrows. Vegeta's call wasn't something he expected. Giving him a nod, Raditz watched Nappa put the scouter on loudspeaker. Vegeta. Nappa said calmly, to which there was silence from the other side for a few seconds, before Vegeta's voice came through. Nappa, Frieza has found the Dragon Balls, a different set of Dragon Balls than Earth, and he is planning to get immortality with them. What? Nappa almost shrieked. This was such a bad news it wasn't even funny. Both Raditz and Goku also started listening seriously, Raditz knowing this was coming and Goku knowing this was the guy who killed his family and race. Vegeta, not caring about anything else, kept talking in a serious voice. I don't expect a coward like you to stop him, but let him know, that the new king, that I am going to Namek to stop him, and gain immortality for myself. I'll be coming back for him soon, and when I return, I'll regain my rightful place as ruler. Beep. The communication was cut right after that from Vegeta's side, and silence was palpable in the room. Something which Raditz decided to break. We have to stop Frieza. The moment he gets immortality he'll be impossible to kill even for me. Frieza will come for us sooner or later. We are Saiyans. He won't let us live. It's better if we take the fight to him when we can. Both Nappa and Goku nodded to Raditz's words. Looks like they'll have to make a trip to outer space soon. After some discussions, Goku went out to call the rest of the Z fighters. Raditz went to speak with Bulma and check on the spaceship they were building together. And Nappa meanwhile was thinking about the Dragon Balls and wishes. Maybe he should wish for something if the chance presents itself. Chapter 58. Day before travel, Raditz was relaxing with Bulma on the beach of Kame House. Both were sitting in their swimsuits. Pai was diving down to her old hideout to show Jin what her mother's side home was all about. Sadly, Launch was back to the other world. It's not a job that gives a lot of holidays. The wind was blowing, the seabirds squeaking, everything was relaxed, except for one thing. Are you angry about something, Raditz? Asked a concerned Bulma, to which Raditz shrugged with his eyes closed. No, what made you think that? Observing Raditz's veins which popped all over his body, from what Bulma considered was sheer anger, she said with a weird tone. Well, you look like you are about to burst a blood vessel for one. Raditz's face took on an understanding look, then he opened his eyes, which made Bulma confused, because they were yellow. She knew he had a transformation like that, but what she didn't know was why he was using it here. What are you transforming for? We are here to relax today, we are to leave for Namek tomorrow. Not minding her words, Raditz closed his eyes again, but his veins remained pronounced, showing he didn't cancel his transformation. Taking a deep breath, Raditz put his hands below his head and said with a relaxed voice, I am relaxing. This training works best when I relax. You know I can't take it lightly. I am going to fight Frieza. He is the strongest guy in the universe. Tilting her head, Bulma sat up and put her phone down. She wanted to hear what Raditz was so worried about. But can't you keep getting stronger using that Akari form of yours? I checked your energy readings before. Your upper limit was so immense the computer crashed. Sighing while remembering their attempt at calculating what his full boost would be, and the computer blowing up like their scouters, Raditz mumbled. Although I can theoretically grow more and more as I access my Uzuru's strength in base, I can't do that practically. I always slip up and go full Uzuru whenever the boost is too high. I simply can't keep all that pressure contained within me. Getting into her scientist mode, Bulma hummed. So what's up with your situation now? This helps somehow. Nodding his head, Raditz opened his eyes and let out a breath. His body relaxed and his eyes went back to normal. Flexing his now relaxed arm, Raditz commented. Yes, this helps me raise my upper limit. What I am doing is quite simple. I am pushing myself to the absolute limit of what I can handle, the very edge after which any further push will make me slip. With his eyes glowing yellow once again to emphasize his point, Raditz showed his changes. First his eyes went yellow, then his hair started fluttering and finally his veins started popping up. See? The more I use my Uzuru's power in base the more my energy grows, but the pressure I have to keep contained increases too. So I am trying to get used to this state right now. I am trying to make it something I can use in my sleep. Opening her eyes wide with realization setting in, Bulma exclaimed. Oh, I see what you are trying to do now. When you get used to this level of energy, you will again push yourself to a new limit, isn't it? You can essentially keep growing until this transformation runs dry. Smirking haughtily, Raditz hummed. She was spot on. He might not have Broly's luxury of not having a tail and thus not having to worry about slipping up. But he did have the knowledge of how Saiyan bodies worked. This way of training where transformation becomes one's natural state is something he took from Goku. Goku and Gohan's perfected Super Saiyan was one of the best things Goku had come up with, and it was helping Raditz with his problems now. That is the gist of it. Very smart of you. Bulma smiled and fixed her hair. She liked getting complimented by Raditz, and she knew the stronger he is the safer both of them are. Understanding he was training to overcome Frieza, she let him be, but the absurd way to training was pretty useful. You are like a cheat, you know. You can boost yourself up to 5 times, then lie around relaxing. After a few days that's your natural state. So now you can again lie around after boosting yourself up to 10 times, and you can just keep repeating this until this transformation runs dry. Remembering the blown up computer, she smiled. And running dry isn't happening anytime soon if that reading was anything to go by. Laughing loudly, Raditz wondered how Bulma will react if she knew even his base was constantly progressing. He had essentially made sure he can sit and eat but he'll still keep growing stronger, both his base and his transformation. That was the results of using his Saiyan body to the fullest. Its ability to adapt was truly immense. But I can't really sit and laze around. All the time I am saving will be used to perfect Ultra Instinct. Raditz could barely trigger Omen by chance sometimes, but that was far from enough. He had to get the entire thing down. And he was working for it every day. He only did instinct training and nothing more. His power level after all will grow naturally with time. I am no cheat. This is just how Saiyans are. We aren't called a warrior race for nothing. In your terms, we have evolved to fight. If there was one species with the most potential in the universe, it would be us. Smiling slyly, Bulma bent down and Raditz felt a sensation on his lips, but he didn't open his eyes. Bulma stayed for a few seconds and got up. Yes, you are very cool, but don't train all day today. I want you to be fresh for tomorrow. We have to make a universal travel. I'll ask my sister what are things I should pay attention to. The last line was mumbled by Bulma. She wasn't showing it because she didn't want to put pressure on Raditz, but she was a bit worried he was going to fight this Frieza guy. She had talked to Nappa before, and from what she knew, he was bad news. That's why she decided to go together with him. Whatever happens, she'll be there for him. While Raditz and Bulma did their thing, the rest of the Z fighters prepared in their own way. Everyone was going, except for Yajirobe. That guy was hell-bent on wasting his potential and no one could do a thing about that. Chapter 59 Spaceship. The next day had arrived and it seemed the Z fighters' break of relaxation went well. Everyone was here with a happy mood. Except for Piccolo, that man was perpetually in a state of gloom, but Gohan's overexcited appearance made up for it. Speaking of Gohan, now that Chi-Chi was not there, Goku and Ox King were managing Gohan by themselves, and Goku in particular was doing a pretty good job at that too. Goku taught Gohan how to fight, how to relax and gave him books left at home on an appropriate time. He was teaching Gohan like he did in canon, when they both left for the time chamber, with patience and understanding. Gohan was getting a balanced development in his life now. Goku even busted out the turtle hermit way for Gohan. Work hard, study well, and eat and sleep plenty. That's the turtle hermit way to learn. Is what Rashi told Goku, and Goku now told Gohan. The boy looked less like a whimpering mess and more like a happy child now. You have gotten strong, Gohan, said Raditz, to which Gohan rubbed the back of his head just like his father and smiled happily. Thanks, Uncle Raditz. Father taught me a lot. The boy said happily with his head raised high, and Raditz was amused at the fact that Gohan was going to Namek just as a training tour. The boy was looking more and more like his Cell Games version, a strong but happy fighter, but someone who didn't like killing his opponents for no reason. That last part's something Gohan will get to reevaluate after our trip to Namek. Frieza goons aren't going to let him go just because he let them go, thought Raditz. Gohan will mature more as a fighter after this trip. Not only that, everyone here will get to experience space battles for the first time in their life. How many will survive is a question best left unasked. The real fact is not everyone will make it out intact. It's possible no one does. Frieza is not a joke, especially now that even Raditz wasn't capable of fighting him. He was still around 20,000 in base, his Akari boost was 7 times max, and as a last-ditch attempt he could bust out Kaioken times 3, that wasn't nearly enough to kill Frieza. I got to make the most of this gravity chamber, I need a boost quickly, who knows if brother can transform against Frieza this time. Raditz was thinking about his chances against Frieza, and he would have pondered more if not for Dr. Briefs, who came out of the spaceship. Nodding to himself with a job well done, Dr. Briefs introduced the ship in detail to everyone. It was a massive ship, capable of fitting together all of the Z-fighters and have space remaining for them to train. A food button. Raditz mumbled after seeing a food processing button. It was a general food production machine, but its placement was quite weird to Raditz. Seeing how Goku was holding it in his hands and wondering if he should press it. And that is the coffee machine right there. It has every kind of coffee you can imagine, said Dr. Briefs, introducing his last invention. It was also the last thing in this ship left to introduce. He was about done. Piccolo was tapping his feet in irritation. He couldn't use any of this, so he didn't care. He wanted to get on with it. And that's about it. Do you want me to repeat it? Something you don't understand? No. Collectively said the Z-fighters, to which Dr. Briefs nodded without any anger. He was a completely chilled man. And now that he had left, Raditz entered the ship again. The mechanical door opened without a hitch. Bulma was walking with Raditz and they entered their room. This will be our room for a while? Not too shabby. Hey Bulma, can you make sure that this ship is parked in the sky? This is Frieza we are talking about. He could blow up the planet whenever he wants. Putting her bag down on the table, Bulma collapsed onto the bed, lying with her hands and legs spread open. Looking up at the white ceiling of the ship she too had hand in creating, she wasn't too worried. I have thought about it before, there is an autopilot function, it'll stay out of sight until we need it. Raditz was relieved hearing that. He couldn't stress the need for this ship to not go up in flames enough. Goku had already suffered that fate in the original, and Raditz wasn't going to bank on the chance of reaching Ydrit. You rest, I'll be off, I need to train and get my base strength raised. After saying that, Raditz left to train, although he will naturally grow because of his created technique, but training will increase this adaptation faster. And he will need raw power if he is to defeat Frieza, not technique. It will only bring him so far against someone like Frieza, unless he could unlock Ultra Instinct immediately. Chapter 60 Gravity Training. It's been a few days since the Z-fighters began their journey to Namek, and Raditz was currently training in the gravity room specific to him. Swift yet nimble movements were the focus of Raditz's body type. He had naturally large frame with huge muscles, so by default he had weight and power behind his attacks. What he didn't have inherently was speed and swiftness. Another swift jab against a hologram Frieza was thrown by Raditz. He was currently focusing entirely on his weak point for this session, his agility. This issue was something which naturally came with his type of build, but the compact muscles Raditz had built up from his Uzuru training was giving him both speed and plenty of power. Stop it, Bulma. Raditz said while breathing hard. He was fighting against a second form Frieza hologram for days now. These models were made from his memory of Frieza's fighting style. Alright, I'll turn off the gravity. While Raditz took a break, Bulma called out and turned off the gravity. She was here to watch him train and get some live data on holographic model. She was tasked to make them as realistic as possible, and accept some real tactile feedback. Everything else was almost finished. Zoom. The room made a sound and stopped pulling Raditz down, its gravity resetting to normal Earth's gravity. Opening the door, Bulma walked in with a towel and went up to Raditz. You have been progressing very fast, but your growth is beginning to slow down now that you have hit 150,000. Bending down, Bulma began wiping Raditz's long spiky mane, while he himself was just lying on the ground exhausted. Turning his eyes towards Bulma, Raditz said with a light voice, "This was bound to happen sooner or later. I haven't turned into a full Uzuru for a while, and I have already adapted to my previous strength. Unless I go complete Uzuru again and wait for my body to adapt itself to it, quick growth isn't going to happen." Bulma lightly hummed hearing Raditz's concerns. She by now knew of the two main ways Raditz trained. One was by physically conditioning himself to his Uzuru's strength, then slowly letting his base to catch up to it. And the second was constantly pushing a carry to new limits. One was for base training, the second was transformation training, and in this spaceship he could only do the second one, not the first. So while wiping away his sweat, Bulma wondered what she could do about it. This was something of a technical challenge to her, and she was going to overcome it. "Gimme a while, I'll try to do something about it." Raising a questioning eyebrow, Raditz asked while slowly getting up. "What can you do about this? This spaceship simply doesn't have enough space for me to go Uzuru." Putting the towel away, Bulma sat down beside Raditz, who was now up and sitting cross-legged. "I own the Capsule Corporation, silly. Space has never been our concern. Our entire product line is about fitting bigger things in smaller spaces." Giving him a smile, Bulma told Raditz of her idea. "I spoke with Krillin the other day. He said there was a time chamber on the lookout, and that it went on and on with no end in sight. I think I can use our capsule technology to make something similar. The chamber's core technology seems pretty identical, but it won't have time dilation. I am not quite sure how to tackle that part yet." Swiftly giving Bulma a tight hug, Raditz exclaimed with amazement, "You are the best, Blue." Smilingly cheekily and returning the hug, Bulma simply closed off the automatic door to the training room and locked it with her remote. "I sure am. So let's relax for a bit, okay, Raditz?" Gazing at the foxy Bulma and the closed training door, Raditz figured he might as well relax for a bit. No reason to spend all his time decking an ugly Frieza in his face. He'll leave that bit to Goku. Anyway, he had nothing to worry about. Now that Bulma was sure she could make something similar, he would be getting that very soon. If everything goes well, he'll reach about 1.5 million in base when they arrive at Namek. Click. With a click, the entire side of Raditz and Bulma's housing locked itself, and the chilling Krillin looked at that with a confused expression. Bulma must be messing with the ship again. It works just fine. He mumbled. Gohan, Tien and Chitsu were relaxing on the sofa. Piccolo and Goku were using the training room, Nappa and Yamcha were using the cafeteria, the rest simply waiting for their turn. Krillin noticed Gohan fidgeting a bit and asked with concern. What's the matter, Gohan? Are you hungry? Shaking his head with a slight blush, Gohan spoke with a voice bordering on helplessness. I want to train more. I don't need to take a break right now, and I have already finished my studies for the day. Holding his chin after hearing Gohan's problem, Krillin wondered what he could do to help the kid. Tien also opened his eyes, but he seemed to have a plan. Do you want to do image training? It won't help you with pure strength, but it'll polish your technique. Gohan was confused yet looking forward to this new technique he just heard about. I don't know how to do that. Getting up with a smile, Krillin walked up to Gohan and held out his hand. It's easy, just grab my hand and feel my ki. When we both do this, it'll create a link if we are near. That space can be used for image training. Nodding but still a little unsure of himself, Gohan held Krillin's hand, and in a few seconds he was sensing Krillin's ki. And the next instant he was in the image training zone. Letting go of Gohan's hand, Krillin praised him proudly. Wow, Gohan, you sure are talented, huh? You got this down in a jiffy. Looking down with a bashful look, Gohan scratched his cheek. He didn't think he was too special. There were plenty of people stronger than him. And when his dad and his uncle were training that hard even after being so strong, there was no reason he should be special. I am ready. Let's do this. Gohan sat down and the remaining Z fighters also sat facing each other in a circle. Everyone was going to brawl it out with each other in the image training zone. All of them were preparing themselves to fight against a possible army. This was the fastest way they could train coordination amongst themselves. They wouldn't want to get in the way of each other during the real battle.